So Carrigan tweeted, roughest benching in my career. Something had to be done, and I want to really highlight this is not a blame on broky. The lineup didn't work, and I used all my experience, but with this, we throw a Hail Mary at the major. I think that's a key part of that right there. Obviously, the fact he's saying this is...
It reminds me of something, I have to say.
Yeah, what does it remind you of?
Falcons.
Well, yeah, but this team is better than Falcons.
Zonic said exactly, it is, I'm pretty sure, word for word, he used all-in Hail Mary type of a thing when they did that for Shanghai.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. SkinPlace. Sell items now.
When every move counts, your chair shouldn't hold you back. Top esports players are switching to Anthros for unbeatable support and performance that keeps them in the game longer. Designed to support your unique shape and built with medical-grade components, Anthros is setting a new standard for comfort. Check out the Anthros difference today and get ready to fix your sit, because gaming deserves more than just a chair.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CS:GO through the lens.
Oh, baby, it's a great night for a Counter-Strike podcast. HLTV Confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe. Welcome to another installment of one of, if not your favorite bunch of lads sitting in a room, different rooms, but the room being this digital one that Lucas provides, talking about your favorite video game, Counter-Strike. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Anthros. If you need a new chair, head over, check out Anthros. See what they got to offer. Can fix your sit, fix your back. Everyone has back problems. You sit for a long time. A better chair will make you have a better life. That's not a money-back guarantee, at least as far as I'm concerned. Prof might pay you. Prof, would you pay for that guarantee?
No, right now. I think that's I'm not taking those odds.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. SkinPlace as well. If you're in the marketplace to sell some skins, head over to SkinPlace. And I should have asked about this before we went live. Are we the new sponsor?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
okay.
Not
all right. I have to check because the old sponsor, we wasn't allowed to say because it's on YouTube, and now they're no longer the sponsor. But there will be a new sponsor. So that's kind of like something people can get excited about if they like sponsors. We like sponsors. All right, let's get into tonight's show. We've got a lot to talk about. It's a big news week. I feel like that was a television show once upon a time. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it had David Spade. There's a lot to talk about tonight. There's a lot to get through. It is the 6th of May, 2025. The major starts in 28 days. Between then and now, this very moment, we have PGL Astana arena event that's going to service a region that hasn't had a Counter-Strike event in a very long time. So very exciting. That's going to be starting on Sunday. That'll be the group stages. Then it'll be in the arena for the following weekend. And, of course, IEM Dallas, the little dip of the toe into American Counter-Strike before we head into the major for Blast in Austin. So this season is going to come to a close quite quickly. A lot's happened to everybody in the past week and a bit. People traveling back from Australia, me. People getting banned from DayZ, me. Prof going to Mongolia, which is crazy. So let's start there for tonight's show. Prof, there was a little event going on in Mongolia. Could you maybe help us and the viewers understand what happened as our man on the ground?
Bro, that little event had more prize pool for first place than Blast Rivals. So you make of that what you want.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
That's kind of crazy, no?
That's a bit of a shell-shocking statement.
But yeah, I mean, it
didn't have appearance fees though, did it?
Obviously a smaller event, but it was a funny thing to observe. We are already criticized Blast's like prize pool, so nothing new on that, I would say, and on that front. But yeah, it was a cool event. Like Mongolia is crazy about Counter-Strike. It is really everywhere. It's just everywhere. People love it. Scream if you love Counter-Strike, and they do. The event obviously had a lot of issues, which was kind of unfortunate. But in short, I feel like, a big tournament organizer coming to Mongolia and putting on, a PGL event, like ESL, a Blast event. Sell? I think it would be banger. Yeah, I think it would be really good. Like the event we had, also the venue was pretty cool. Like it would be a venue you would enjoy. It was like 1,500 people, like center stage, small, had like lower VIP seating and then like upper seating, like kind of looking down onto the crowd. It was like a circus before, and then a guy that's a sumo wrestler bought it, redid it, so it's like can be used for that as well. It's a cool venue, like a redone as well. So a lot of positives, and then just like annoying long days and stupid problems, popping up every day. So that's the good vibe. Glad I went. Unique experience for sure.
So this was the MESA Nomadic Masters Spring 2025 with teams such as Heroic, Big, Bait were there as well. Those are the bigger names. And then you had a couple of Mongolian. Oh, Saw was there. Things did not go well for Saw. What happened to Saw, Prof?
They're like, yeah, probably a combination of, coming to an event. They played a lot of LAN, and there are a lot of there's a lot of young people in that roster with little experience, and they're going, ESL events, everything's super perfectly smooth. And they come here. I think they're one of the teams that didn't really know how to deal with, there's a delay. Oh, my PC is not perfectly smooth because it's not optimized in the way, all of these things.
Yeah.
I think they are like, the CJOT was like horrible. Like in Melbourne, he was like 120 rating or something, even though they lost everything. He came here like couldn't kill anyone. Like it was super bad. But I also think, I don't know, that lineup never really made sense too much.
They kind of overperformed it.
So I feel like it's gonna, a combination of both things coming together.
Okay. Well, someone in chat said they gave out free beer. Is that true?
This is true. First day of the playoffs, super delayed.
It's because of the delays.
Yeah. Then they just put it on screen, free beer. So people are vibing around that. I see Striker is fixing his white balance once again. So we lost him for a second. Some obscure problems, wireless mice not working because of like frequencies.
That was for Big, right? Was it QB?
Yeah. I mean, it was Tabson. It was Hype. Hype was having... Hype went through like 17 PCs over the weekend. Like every time there's like some issue. Big had all of the issues all the time. Played like super late.
Still came second.
Yeah, they played like 2 a.m. games practically every day. And then we were like, the tournament finishes, just like a side fun story. We're like, okay, finally, we can't be delayed by Big anymore. Me and Pala go into the shuttle to leave. And it's like shuttles are not leaving. Like there's 4 of them, like all leaving at the same time. I guess they wanted to just drive at the same time. And we're like, what's happening? Of course, it's Big again. Korean both stuck in an elevator for like 40 minutes.
Oh, I saw that. He put a picture on Instagram, stuck in elevator. I thought it was a joke.
It was for real. It was for real. Dude was stuck in an elevator. So like Big was just cursed this event with like delays and tech problems. It was crazy.
Okay, because I saw you would do like you and Parla and I think Dingo was putting stuff up as well from the time there. The first stuff I saw and Blair was like the LAN cafes.
Yeah.
So is it really like, because this is how I picture it, right? I picture Mara just like rocking up in like a tracksuit, kind of, hood up in disguise. And he just kind of walks behind like row after row of PC looking for the next big thing. And there's just LAN cafes stacked with Mongolian Counter-Strike players, is it Ulaanbaatar? Did I say that?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the country
like?
is pretty much just that city. That city is just like half of the population of the whole country.
Can they smoke indoors?
there's like shisha and stuff that was in the hotel bar, and like cigars, you know, but generally smoking indoors not really a thing.
That's good, because in Serbia that freaks me the fuck out.
I don't know why that's still a thing in Serbia. They actually voted against it. Like they voted to ban it in Serbia. We're completely off topic, but doesn't matter. But it hasn't been like passed officially, so it's a weird thing. Anyway, yeah, we're just like in the city, randomly like driving to food. You see like Mzinho on a billboard for like a telecom, just like an advertisement, you know. It's not even, he's just there. Okay. Walk down the street, you see like energy drink, again, Mzinho on a billboard. It's like, what the walk on, it's like esports club. Okay, what the fuck is this? We just walk in. We're just like, not 5 white dudes, obviously, but you know, obviously foreigners just like walking around this, like looking at everything, taking photos and videos of everything. People just like looking at us like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Just wherever we just walk to another bar, accidentally take a left. It's another PC cafe with like 100 people playing, like 90 of them playing Counter-Strike. It was pretty wild. Pretty wild. That's cool. For sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, if they can fix the tech issues, right? Because I saw the delays, but I wasn't tuning in to watch the matches, to be honest. Like, it wasn't really an exciting field.
No.
Fair. Heroic did end up lifting the trophy, best of 5 final over Big. It was a bit of a shame the Mongols weren't there, right? They were there in a show match against
I don't think they could
Mongols
because it was a tier 2 event, right? So they couldn't invite them because they're too
high in the rankings. Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, it was, well, you know, Heroic was okay. Their like favorites went through, just delivered, and that's nice. But would have been nice to have a few more, like, Tyloo was also supposed to be there. They pulled out because of visa stuff for the major. That would have definitely made it like a slightly more exciting tournament.
Curious one for me. How did Gigi Howe look? Because that roster now, like, they're not leaning on Europeans anymore, right?
Yeah.
With them, so they have. Well, I'm going to be honest. My understanding of the Middle East is terrible. So, but I know that there's no more Europeans in that team. How'd they look?
I mean, okay. I think they just like leaned into fragging out, you know, just in their style. And I think it makes more sense than trying to like implement KRB or some shit into that lineup. They're just like, you know, Boros, Isa, Osama's just let's just frag. Don't give a fuck about anything. So that's honestly better to lean into that style than try to emulate something that's not working for the players you have, I think.
Okay. So overall, fun time.
Yeah.
Delay's not great. Lots of new experiences. And would you go again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I think hopefully just not me and Paula doing every desk segment from start to finish, even though that was kind of vibes as well. Just like two
it's
people.
A different dynamic, right?
Never saw that before. We were supposed to have a third person, but didn't happen. So it's just like, yeah, just the two of you. Enjoy, guys.
A bit more of the, you know, the early days of esports.
Yeah. Blair was very excited for me to experience like a real esports. Like all of my events were like Blast, PGL, you know, ESL, everything's working. It's just like every time something bad would happen, he's like, this is esports. Enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice. I guess we've covered that off.
Yeah.
Strike, do you have any questions for Prof about his time in Mongolia?
No, it just sounded like he had to do a lot of filling, which is also, you know, this is esports. This is very esports. Like pre-COVID esports where you just have hours and hours to fill.
As much as it was like an experience for me, I definitely think Henry was Omega cursed. Like everything he tried to do was just, everything was falling apart. Like his bathroom, it was so funny. You'll probably catch up with him.
He was just messaging me. He only just got home now.
Yeah, they stayed an extra day, him and Dinko, because like flights were kind of not
tough to get back here. Dinko lives directly below me now, and Henry lives one apartment across. And Hugo's coming here soon as well. So
not the same building, please.
No, Hugo, he could have, but Dinko beat him to the punch on getting this one. So
okay.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. Fun little stories there. Shall we keep it all moving?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
All right. I want to have a quick one here just with Strike. I just want to have a check-in because we haven't touched on this in a while, and that's probably a good thing. So I don't want to spend long on this, Strike, and if there's no news, that's probably the best news I'll hear about this. So regarding the Valve regional standings or the tournament operations requirements, have there been any like updates or anything that has, you know, gone by while all these different events over the world and the news has been happening? Have we missed anything?
No, the last update, I was just checking about something because of whatever. Somebody asked me about something. And the last update to the rule book is like 2 months old. And it was fairly minor. Like the big one came in like February. where like a lot of the big changes came, and that's pretty much it. We haven't really had any movement too much.
Okay, and a quick one, because I kicked off the show by saying 28 days until the major now. Obviously, we'll get into the news about s1mple being the addition to FaZe in place of broky a little bit later in the show. But was that because of the deadline? And I read something, I don't know if there's any validity to this, that the deadline for the rosters had been pushed. Is there anything there?
We literally just posted about it now, like just as we went live. It was, but apparently only for the teams that went through the MRQ. So, you know, the phases and all that stuff, they still needed to submit their rosters by yesterday afternoon. So, yeah, I mean, they just, if they needed to make something happen, it would have had to be by yesterday afternoon, yeah.
Okay, so all the teams who are in stage 2 and stage 3 had to have it done, whereas the teams who will be in stage 1 are given a bit more of a grace period. Is there a reason for that?
There was apparently some sort of a kind of like a misunderstanding around a rule that basically says that you can adjust the roster after qualifying from the MRQ by changing your coach or your substitute, and the word "or" kind of made Blast think it's only one or the other, while Valve's stance is that you can change both if you want, you know, but between qualifying from the MRQ and the final deadline. So the rule is that you can, between the MRQ and the major, you can change a substitute or a coach.
Okay.
And Blast interpreted as only one or the other, while, you know, a team was looking, MESA was like Complexity were looking to change both apparently. And Blast thought they couldn't, but then there was a clarification from Valve that they could. And so they gave those teams a little bit more extra time with the new information, you know, or with the clarification coming.
Okay, cool. Great. We're up to date. That's perfect. That's how we want to deal with that. All right, so I want to jump around a bit here. On the topic list, it is going straight into Blast Rivals, but I actually want to do the news first, because I think the news is what most people are going to be excited about, and then we can get into the talking about the teams and the impact that's going to have down the stretch, and we can also intermingle that with the conversation about Astana, because the names that we're going to talk about from Rivals are not the same names for Astana, but everyone is on a similar runway to the major. So let's actually kick off with the recent news. We won't get into Skinionaire first. I want to get into the report regarding SunPayus and s1mple to G2. Now, Striker, I put the spotlight on you. I love doing this because you're the man who's, you know, you're putting your head to the ground. It's a bit like a snake, you know, you feel those vibrations, you know, when the people are coming. I didn't mean it in like a slippery negative way.
Yeah,
I mean, like he feels the vibrations.
New headline. Chad, Sponge Birchall, Striker, you're kind of like a snake. You're kind of like a snake. That's okay.
Well, the first one, I'll throw it your way, Striker. What's the legitimacy behind this? Because I swear, like Overdrive a couple weeks ago said, oh, there's going to be like a massive coach transfer in the player break window, in the tournament break window, excuse me. And then this news coming out, that feels like that would be in line with that. A lot of teams should be going for s1mple, to be honest. Yeah. But is there any validity to this?
There's definitely been talks around those two people with G2. The actual report said verbal agreement. That I don't like when people do that, you know, because that just gives you the chance to say, oh, but it wasn't actually signed and all that stuff. And like it wasn't, even if it was an actual verbal agreement, you know, you always have something to fall back on. And it's just something that a lot of reporters just kind of default to when they're not 100% sure like what the status is. So like what I can say, there have definitely been talks. There's definite interest from G2 in these two players. And I mean, if you think about it, that makes perfect sense. Like Opera's market and all that stuff. There's like, at this point, assuming Astralis goes under, like there's basically like two Operas that you could get into, which is Device and SunPayus. Like those are the only two that you would think are somewhat available, proven, you know, at the level you're going to be looking for, you know. So SunPayus, I'm sure, has like teams asking left and right, you know, and on G2, we heard the CEO talk about like there being multiple options. He seemed to suggest that they were going for more for younger players, but SunPayus is also on the older side now. So what is he, 26, 27, something like that. He's also going up in age now, you know, so maybe it doesn't quite fit, but I'm definite interest there.
Okay. Now let me throw this your way, Prof. You hear that news?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel as one of the biggest G2 stands in the scene? You know, how does that make you feel when you hear the news SunPayus and s1mple could be going to G2? Because we know it has to be a rebuild.
I think it makes sense. I think it's like two good pieces to build around. I don't think either is like, I mean, I don't know. Actually, on the coach side, I think that's kind of as big. That and s1mple and Ash are the two biggest ones that you're talking about as potential. You know, you're not going to get Blade, so that doesn't really make sense. So out of the opportunities, I would say pretty nice. But like coach signings aren't like super exciting, or not meant to be exciting anyway. But SunPayus pretty good, I would say. Honestly, doesn't seem like he should have ever been in Heroic, and like the last few transfers that happened for him, kind of weird, right? How he left, the way he left Falcons didn't really make too much sense. Kind of, he was really good for that lineup, so we all knew that he wasn't the problem there. And then going to Heroic is like, I think it's good that he went somewhere and then continued to prove like, he's a pretty good offer, consistent. Now watching him at the event as well, he wasn't like dominating everyone. Like highest rated player was, I think, Tanir, who was running around headshotting as you would. But SunPayus was like consistently really good every game, right? So I think he's a really good option for G2 or a FaZe or literally any lineup that needs to replace an offer.
Okay, well, I actually like the Saw move more than the SunPayus one, because I think like Saw is future-proofing G2. Yeah. Because Saw has a good track record at the moment of maybe not having the best pieces, or pieces that don't like appear like they're going to be great together in the beginning, and then the way that he's able to build those teams. And also, I think that's one of like the best pieces that the top org should be looking for. Like Na'Vi have it with Blade. Obviously, they're having struggles at the moment. That's a conversation for later in the show. But having that strong coach, especially one that can deal with younger and maybe be scouting for players, is great. So I think Saw is a huge pickup. And yeah, I agree with what you said. Ash just re-signing for Game Legion, so nobody's going to be getting their hands on him. And we know that G2 have a lot of extra cash because of the sale of Nico and Mondesi. So there's money there. You mentioned Tanir. I reckon he should be a good pickup for someone.
True. I just wanted to kind of maybe just phrase it slightly differently. I think like what G2 have now, I think it's perfect for Saw, because they don't have anyone that's like a superstar in really. They have really good solid players in every role.
Soldiers, for sure.
But people that need to like, everyone could probably go to like 20% up over the next 2 years. So I think it's like a really well-built team, could be, if it comes together. The Snacks position is the one that's like still under a question mark, but they have good pieces across the board, and in my opinion are great to like position to start rebuilding. If they take themselves as like a top 10 team and build from there, I think that's like a good trajectory. Like they can really maybe reach like a top 5 or something, but just like resetting the expectations and starting on a like a slightly lower scale.
I think if we take, like, let's just pretend for a second that this is real and this is going to happen, right? So you bring in SunPayus, Hades is only there temporarily. You obviously keep Heavy God, you keep MOUZ, right? Then you probably want to keep Hunter and get an in-game leader, but we don't know what's going to be available at the time of the break. Do you think Hunter would step into the in-game leadership roles? I think he has the temperament for it. He seems like a really level-headed guy. Like, I always like talking to Hunter. He's an adult. Leading isn't easy. So I don't know.
I'm just curious how it's worked out with him over the years. It just seems like it's a role that he's not interested in particularly, even though a lot of people have said about him that he would be a good fit for it, right? So it just doesn't seem like he sees it as a career move. At least didn't until now. I mean, we saw the Dallas thing, right? I mean, it probably would have made more sense for him to do the in-game leading instead of Nico at that point, if he wanted to do something, or if he had to wanted to try it out, get some experience and see if that could be a chance for him to do in the future. But obviously that didn't happen. They gave it to Nico. Maybe he stepped up. That's also a possibility, like that he just said like, fuck it, I'll do it. And we can just get Stewie or whatever. But it just, at no point when it seemed like that could be a possibility for Hunter, it happened. And I don't really see why, why would Snacks be a better option than giving it to Hunter, if he actually wanted it. So it just, it seems like from him, it doesn't look like a possibility.
Yeah, okay. I'll say just from, I hope it happens. Yeah, I think they should try it, because I think it is, as you said, there are all the things from the outside are there for him to be an IGL. Like the way he plays, the way he talks. It really
frees up their choice as well, right? Yeah. If he does it, because they have to keep 3 players. And if Hunter takes over the hardest piece of the in-game leadership mantle, because otherwise they're not getting Kixen, they're not getting Alexi, Hooksy's not going back there. I highly doubt, right? So then you're starting to run, maybe the Shui trial doesn't work out with Liquid, and then that would be a pickup that you'd go for, but it's one that it feels like they already could have gone for, but didn't for whatever reason. So there's a few you also maybe a Linus, or like if you wanted to bring someone else from Heroic, or ZTR from Gamer Legion, but it doesn't really feel like it really fits the bill, does it?
Yeah, I don't know. Not sold.
Maybe it's too early.
Yeah. I mean, it's also about like just having a fragger that doesn't have experience is so much easier than having like an IGL that doesn't have the experience. Like all of these names that we're throwing in are like players that have potential but haven't really done it on a top team, and with players that, I mean, it's a mixture. There, some are kind of experienced, Hunter, SunPayus, I would say, and then the other two. I mean, MOUZ obviously won a bunch, so he'll want to continue winning a bunch. And just having someone like LNZ, I feel like he is really fit for the Heroic lineup that they have, which is like young guys, kind of, and ZTR as well. Same thing on Gamer Legion, just like people figuring shit out together, and there isn't like a huge disparity between the pieces.
Yeah, okay. I mean, at this point, we don't know that any of those guys have what it takes to call at a top level, right? I mean, they're on teams that are punching above their weight and occasionally, you know, showing that they can compete with the best, but not on the level that G2 would expect that they want to compete for trophies. They don't know how to win at this point, you know, at least they haven't shown it so far.
Okay. All right. I'm drinking piss and we're talking shit. So let's get into the next.
Either that or fucking sunflower oil, just straight up.
It's just electrolytes. That's all it is. It's just some
is that
orange
from the
flavor.
Vitality school?
No, I've been
Falcons.
doing this for a little while. I've been sweating a bit more lately, so you know I've been trying to get.
Everyone drinking piss these days.
Yeah, man. It's the drink, man. All right, let's get into the next piece. I want to jump into just quickly touching on this Astralis stuff, because in an episode we did not that long ago, one of the topics we had was, you know, how solid is Astralis financially? How's that developed, Striker? What are we looking for? Is it going to be sold? Are they going down the gurgler? What's the update?
I honestly, at this point, it looks like it could go any which way you could possibly imagine. Like with the org going bankrupt, the core being sold, individual players being sold, somehow the org's finding a buyer for it. At the moment, I mean, from talking to people around, it doesn't look like anybody local is interested in it. You know, like some of these teams that have been like on the up in Denmark, you know, like Sashi or like a Tricked or whatever, like there's some money there, but apparently they're just not interested in the brand. They would rather build something of their own, you know, and that's curious. So nobody really local to Denmark wants it, even though it seems like Astralis as a brand still has some value. So it's, I don't know, like it just seems like there's still a lot of possibilities, and it could very well transpire in the next few weeks, couple of months maybe.
Okay. Prof, if you know, you had to look at it, what would, from any perspective, you can take it from an org perspective, from a legacy perspective, just from your perspective is probably the best one. What do you hope or think will happen with Astralis?
Ooh, I didn't think about that from that point of view. Like, I honestly think it would be such a shame for Astralis to like not exist as a concept. But also, like, if it continues existing under similar management ideals that it had for the last, I would say, until since 2019, 2020, essentially when things started to go to kind of hell, then that's not good, right? Because obviously they've been mismanaged. But then if you change the management and keep the name, what does that even mean, right? What is the connection of the new Astralis to the Astralis that existed before? So like, we're just keeping around the name for no purpose, right? So in some ways, maybe we should just let it die. You know, maybe we should just let it go and then start anew. Remember the good times. We'll unfortunately also remember the bad times, and you know, someone else in Denmark will hopefully come up and take the mantle and maybe make some new memories and history for the country.
Yeah, I think this is the issue with like Fnatic and NIP, is because they were put on such a pedestal in earlier iterations of Counter-Strike, and now to see them in such like strugglesome times in terms of Counter-Strike. They both have a lot of other games that they do, Fnatic especially, right? The League of Legends or the Valorant, and they have other stuff to be proud of. I think the sad thing is that their boss man is a Counter-Strike guy, and we've had him on the show before. Just that Counter-Strike has slipped so far. At least they're making trades to try and get better, just not aggressively and not at the same level, and understandably so, because money's not fucking growing on trees. So I can get behind that. Like Astralis, the greatest team to ever touch Counter-Strike, right? With the way that they evolved the game and the 4 majors and all of that. It would be sad because I feel like it's not that we'd lose Denmark, but like Counter-Strike's identity was, Denmark's Counter-Strike identity was Astralis. Maybe it's a good thing that it's not tied to that so much anymore, or if that's the way it goes. I try to think as well from a team perspective, is it better just to blow that roster up and take the valuable pieces and put them in other teams?
That's what I honestly, that is what I want to happen, because at this point you're in a place as Astralis where it feels like no matter what combination they've tried, it just failed. Partly because of the pressure, probably partly because of the legacy, partly because of, they kept missing majors. And so the more majors you miss, the more pressure you put on yourself. And as long as you keep in that core and keep in that mentality, it's probably gonna stay there. It just feels like they can't escape this, no matter what happens. Maybe, if the management changes and like the pressure, whatever, the setup around the team changes, like where it's a bit more healthy and all that stuff, maybe I could see a way where that changes. But at this point, I would rather, like, realistically, 3 or 4, all 4 of those players could just join like a random top 10 team and all probably improve the right team at some point. Device, obviously, we have like a G2 FaZe, now like being probably the 2 biggest candidates. Then Stairs, like even outside of the position that he's playing,
Stairs to G2
could be amazing for sure. Yeah, and even in the position that's like in different positions, like he's still kind of maintaining a really good profile, even though he's in positions that he doesn't actually want to play or doesn't have the inclination for. And even then he's playing well, so it's kind of crazy the versatility that he seems to have. So you could put him probably on like 8 out of the top 10 teams in some position and he would do well. Yabi is still, I think, a pretty solid lurker.
Someone.
Yeah, sure. Like, or even like if there's a world where G2 change Hunter, that could be a 1-for-1, whatever. Like there's obviously space for any of these players to come on, like there could be. So that's what I want, to be honest. Like as much as I do enjoy the occasional national team, and the last thing I would want for Astralis is to become another Fnatic or an IP, because it would just be thrown into the same pile of all the teams that we don't really give a fuck about, because they just can't buy the right players, can't buy the performance side of it, and it goes to die effectively. Like, who talks about Fnatic anymore at this point?
Yeah, no, fair. When you were talking, a user said, where is it? Steven should go play CCT. And every time someone, like, when they're calling down Steven, it's just so funny to me for some reason. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Because he looks nothing like a Steven. Like, just imagine him being called Steven makes no sense.
No, that's true.
It doesn't clashes completely. So it makes it just funnier. Just like Bobby for Body. It's also very funny.
That one gets Alex every time.
These are your 2 classics of this year, bro. Just 2 of your biggest casting lines.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, should we close the book on Astralis for now?
Yep. That's where the org is going. Might as well.
They're closing their own fucking books before they go bankrupt. All right.
No. We trust in HOOXi. They're going to win Astana. They're going to get so much money. They're going to live off of that to the next, past the player break. And we're sailing into the sunset. Now going to be 4-time major winner again. Back to back. We fucking do this. I believe in HOOXi.
This is right.
I have a question.
Astana. Think about all the VRS points they get. They're back in all the tournaments, boys. They're fucking back.
What's the national animal of Denmark?
The swan.
Bad news swans, but aren't there also the little furry things?
And it's just government subsidized.
Meerkats or whatever.
No, that's not.
I think that you had to kill during COVID. What are those?
Oh, those. Yeah, we don't talk about those. That's
what are they?
Controversial topic in Denmark. It's we call them
sorry,
mink.
What? Minks. Bad news minks. There we go.
No. We don't talk about those in Denmark.
We don't talk about them.
That's
they actually make a player-owned, organization. Actually, this time That's it. That's the way out.
Yeah. This one, not so. Yeah, I was going to say it could be government subsidized because you guys pay 60% tax. So I'm sure, they could help out a little bit. All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, the main course, the delicious dish. And we're going to kick it off with Skinionaire. Now, this Skinionaire, Dimitri has assured me, he hasn't, but he did say he was going to do Skinionaire regarding, that of broky being replaced on FaZe. So tonight's Skinionaire, brought to you by SkinPlace, is going to be regarding exactly that, all things broky. Right now, your opportunity, if you want a raffle ticket to enter the draw, maybe you haven't been here before, maybe you don't know what Skinionaire is. It is a quiz. It's 5 questions, multiple choice. Every question that we get correct, we'll take it on as a trio tonight. We'll move the slider up. Now, if we get all 5 correct, that's a $50 skin that could go to one of you lucky live viewers right now. And again, your raffle ticket is you typing SkinPlace in Twitch chat now. You don't need to spam it, but if you do, it's great for our metrics. All right, let's get things underway, shall we? Question number 1, who wants to be a Skinionaire, brought to you by SkinPlace. broky received his most recent MVP at last Premier Fall 2022, IEM Sydney 2023, IEM Chengdu 2024. Oh dear.
Who's answering, by the way? Me and you, Chad?
We'll do all
I
3.
can't because I saw the answers. So
Okay, you and me, Prof.
But this is Chengdu for sure. This is like his last
good event,
practically. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Locking in C, Chengdu. Correct answer is Chengdu, and I believe it is pronounced Chengdu. So everybody, I want you to be on your best behavior and pronounce it correctly. Otherwise, we will be getting in trouble from nobody but ourselves. All right. Question number 2. Based on HLTV top 20, broky's best year was 2022, 2023, 2024, and top 20.
So last year he was 8th. But it has. Wait, who was the best player in their Grand Slam 2022?
What year did they win the major?
22, right?
There's 22 then.
Antwerp 22 has to be 22. Has to be 22.
I'm just putting major best performance together. Yeah. It makes sense, right? It's a no-brainer.
Let's go for it.
All right, nice. I like the logic. Right? It's sensible logic. Correct answer is 22. Okay, nice.
I was looking at Striker's face. It almost fucked me. Yeah,
he was 6th, I think, in 22. Robs was the number 4 that year, I want to say. And he was 8th, as you said, in 24. In 23, he was somewhere quite far down. Was he even 20 or something? Somewhere there.
Okay. Well, let's have a look. It was 20, 2021, 6, 2022.
Oh, no, he was 10th, actually.
10th, 23, and 8th in 24. All right. Question number 3. Which of these has broky not achieved? 1 million prize pool, WATO plus Cologne, major MVP.
And no major MVP. That's easy. That was Rain in Antwerp.
Yeah, they won WATO and Cologne. They won WATO with Justin standing in for Rain and Robs. They won Cologne over Navi. And they won the Intel Grand Slam. So with that and all the other tournaments, it would have been over $1 million in prize money.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The major MVP. Lucky in C, major MVP. Correct answer is ding, 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 ding. 3 from 3 so far. Okay,
not too bad.
All right. So question number 4. What team did broky play for before joining FaZe? 3D Max, Epsilon, or LDLC? It's Epsilon.
This is true. It's kind of easy because I did write a big feature on him when he joined.
Yeah, but I remember that, and I'm a fucking memory of a sieve, mate. B, Epsilon. Correct answer. Bang. All right, tonight's one's easy. Don't tell them
what's a sieve in this context? Like the kitchen?
Yeah, when you're in the kitchen and you get some noodles. Yeah. You want to strain out you put it in a sieve.
So it all goes through. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right, question number 5. broky joined FaZe at the same time as Adren, Cole, Nico, or Kirby. Oh dear.
No, this is Coldzera.
Was it?
Yeah. Famously because they paid $1 million for Coldzera or something, and then they needed one more player, so they picked up broky, who was free essentially, like an FPL kid.
Okay. Are you sure? Nico was already there. Right?
Yeah.
Rain was already there.
Didn't Kirby replace Coldzera? No.
But when did Adren come in?
He was like he was the replacement for Neo or something, or the other way around.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, you happy with Cold? I'm putting this one on you.
Yeah.
All right, locking in B. Cold. Correct answer is Cold. Well, I was actually stressed about that one. I didn't fucking know. Yeah, okay. And then Cold didn't do anything, and then he eventually got replaced.
Yeah, and broky ended up being there.
Okay,
signing in a while.
Yes, and now it's 2025, and he's no longer part of the team, which is essentially where we take us. Now let us pick our winner.
Wasn't that like how the whole fucking... Wasn't it like Cold, then Irby, then Neo, then Adren or some shit? Wasn't it like that's what it started out as? Or was it before that?
I think it was before.
Remember. Okay.
Before 2018 DreamHack.
Yes. Yeah, because
Las Vegas was
2019.
Yeah, DreamHack Las Vegas, we had the Neo and Forest handshake picture.
Aha. Okay.
Right. And 2018, yeah.
Okay.
2018 was, and this was 2019.
Well, we've got our winner. It is NYTCS. That is NYTEECS. It's been following for 4 years, so congratulations. Our people will reach out to your people, and we will get you your voucher for the $50 skin, thanks to Skin Place. That's who wants to be a Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place on HLTV Confirmed on your Tuesday evening. All right. Now, that is a sad one because, yes, it is all about broky for one reason. We touched on it before we kicked that off. He has been benched on FaZe. Now, he's not been booted. He's still part of the organization. I think that essentially means that the door could be open if it doesn't work with s1mple at the major, and then they want to do a rebuild. Maybe broky could still be there. But in terms of this one, does anybody want to read the eulogy for broky? Anyone have anything nice they want to say about him?
I mean,
you're acting as if like he's dead and he's never going to join a team again. Like, come on, he was a great player last year, not even that long ago.
But people have been shitting on him a lot lately, So I think it's time that we remember some of the good times.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, people talk about him as if he's never going to get a team again. When 4-time top 10 HLTV or some shit.
And he's only
like
24.
Yeah, I mean, the sentiment right now is like no one is going to ever give him a chance, which isn't realistic. I don't think that's where this is going at all. But realistically, I don't know. He has been bad, and no one really spoke about it until the last month. And now he's out of the team. But he's one of the most exciting and most frustrating players to watch, in my opinion. And like I don't like how he plays. I never liked how he played, but also had to enjoy it and respect it when it worked. It was just he's that kind of a player. And someone wrote in chat like, "What do you think about broky going to Navi?" And I'm like, of all the teams, that's a team he should never join. With Blade and Alexi B, putting in broky, who's like completely just a vibe-based player, would be I think a horrible fit.
I think he'd be good in Liquid.
Personality-wise, too, to be honest, I don't think it would be a good thing for Navi.
I think he'd be good in Liquid.
Could work, yeah.
That's the one that immediately sticks out to me. That could be fun.
Tests.
Yeah, and I think like obviously that pre-existing relationship does an awful lot. I think Nertz is also the type of guy that I feel like broky would respect and get along with. So that could be something if Ultimate doesn't have a good major.
I do see a problem with like if broky doesn't really get a chance on like one of these top teams.
You mean grinding
he
back? He
doesn't strike me like a guy who would like join a tier 2 team and want to play like TCTs and shit that are like just be the team that barely makes it to playoffs or whatever. Like he thrives in like the arenas and all that stuff. And so like if he doesn't get that chance, I could see how like it would take him a while to join a team.
It's crazy because like when you look at his career, like it's very unorthodox realistically, like how he was playing for Epsilon, who I don't know if they were even a top 30 team at the time. He was good he was picked up because he played FPL and he was good in FPL. Joined a team where he had like no right to be there in terms of like the players that FaZe signed before and after that before that was all just like goats of previous years. And then after that is like some of the best talent in existence in terms of like twists and rops. And then Kerrigan coming back, stuff like this. So he literally came out of nowhere into top of tier 1 and just stayed there, or earned his spot to some degree because like taking the op from all of who was opping when they brought him in first, growing into that role. Like it is weird to be like, we can't see him grinding, because like he was grinding before.
Sure.
But like he skipped so many steps.
Yes.
That it's like, will he have the motivation to do that again? Like it was not again, but for the first time practically. And he also like obviously played under Nico's IGLing and then Kerrigan, and that's it. Like never played with any other IGLs. And there's like a lot of people that have very different approaches to leading and leading the team and leading like on the server. And these two guys, whatever you want to say about Nico, be a hater or whatever, he's definitely a guy that can lead a team as a, you know, authority figure and with experience. You know, now you go and join, I don't know, Gamer Legion with ZTR or something. How is that gonna work?
Can I ask a very ignorant question? I'm going to raise my hand and continue to say that I'm a moron, right? I do that on a frequent basis. HOTU is Latvian.
Yeah.
And she's very talented. She also speaks Russian as well as English and Latvian. And then maybe she speaks more languages. I don't know.
She does.
Okay. But she speaks Russian. Now, this is the ignorant question.
Yeah, Kendar also speaks Russian.
Do all Latvians speak Russian?
No. It's
I'm gonna say there's more options for.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of influence across all three of those countries, right? Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, former Soviet countries. So I think there's a lot of roots, and a lot of the families like speak Russian or have some like Russian roots, and so they speak the language. But I don't think it's like across the board.
Yeah, okay. I think both HOTU and Yekindar have like a grandma or something, you know, that is Russian or like spoke mainly Russian, and obviously you also probably learn it in school, the older generations, but not the younger generations. So I don't think it's the case for broky. I've never seen him speak Russian to anyone. So probably not.
I thought I'd ask, and
it's a fair question. It's a fair question, you know, fair question.
All right, so let's we've spoken about broky, you know, what we could expect. Well, I think, you know, he's just going to be where he is until the tournament break, and then whatever opportunities arise. And then we'll also have to see how FaZe want to handle this, because they did let Rops and Twist go for free. So I'm going to be curious now how they
budgetarily, monetarily
decide to deal with the broky situation. So that's something for a later date. We can put a pin in that, and we can return to that once we finish the major and we get into the tournament break. We have plenty of conversations to have there, because we're going to find ourselves in the next point of conversation, which is FaZe's s1mple solution, which is a blockbuster. That's massive news that came out yesterday. If anybody missed it, well, s1mple is the man who has been tasked with standing in for broky at the major. Now, there's a few other little details that we need to talk about with this, just so everybody understands. The runway that I outlined, Astana into Dallas into Austin, FaZe are only playing in Dallas.
Yep.
And in Dallas, they may not have Rain, who is expecting the birth of his second child. So there's a chance Rain is not in Dallas, and they've already preemptively got Skulls as the stand-in potentially to fill the void. Which would suck, because I read something that said like Rain was like the first guy who reached out to s1mple to see if s1mple wanted to play with them.
Who said this? Where did you see this?
It was like in one of those
PS2 news,
eScore fucking whatever. Like if s1mple was talking to somebody on a stream about it or something along those lines. But anyway, the main focus is on s1mple in the FaZe jersey. Look, this is a blockbuster signing, right? Even though it is only temporary, this is the second attempt that s1mple's kind of been standing in for a team at a major.
Third.
At
a major second,
with the Falcons situation that didn't work very well, and also didn't do wonders for s1mple, right? So the timeline of s1mple in CS2 is he didn't get on the plane to go to IEM Sydney, and then he was no longer part of Na'Vi. And then since then, he's played, I think, like 7 or 8 officials or series, it is, those being with Falcons. And that was him kind of coming into plug and already sinking ship, and he also wasn't in shape. Now, I feel like FaZe, well, let's throw the question out there. Did FaZe have other legitimate options in either of your opinions?
Good question. Let me think.
Because probably most people would say Dexter.
I don't think Dexter would be an improvement, if I'm completely honest, and that we can talk about that if we want to. I just think he's a very skilled player, but also a player with deficiencies in terms of, I would say, decision making a lot. So I don't think it's if your options are s1mple or Dexter, I would go with s1mple, even though I'm not super huge on s1mple joining top teams right now. I just think with Dexter, you kind of know what you're getting, and that's not enough for FaZe.
Well, sorry, Luke, it is. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it is interesting that they didn't go that route, because, like, what does that mean for the future? You know, like, first of all, I don't think we think s1mple is actually going to be a long-term solution, and the way that they've kind of talked about it, it just doesn't look like it's a trial. It is really just like him coming in for Austin, but the fact that I didn't get Dexter suggests to me that would never have been a long-term option then, because, like, if it was, then they would have got him now, right? And then see if he can be good enough, or like if Kerrigan can bring in more out of him and all that stuff, if they want to sign him long-term for after the major, right? So it's pretty clear that they're not going that route long-term, even if, you know, like, they're just not going to consider him even long-term at some point, you know. So that is the curious part. But then, like, what would they do, you know, long-term? Like, would it be a device who is, like, now kind of in flux and doesn't know whether, like, he's going to continue with Astralis, not going to continue with Astralis, or is there somebody else somewhere in the pipeline? I don't know. But I don't think they had a different option now other than Dexter. Yeah,
but that's the key point, right? Is the now, right? Because we can flirt with different conversations about what the future holds for FaZe, and I'd imagine, right, there's going to be a lot of options on the table for them after the major, and that's probably where they'd want to play their cards. And I just want to read out a couple of the tweets that were made yesterday from some members of the FaZe camp, just to give some context for maybe some viewers who missed it. So Carrigan tweeted, "Rough is benching in my career. Something had to be done, and I want to really highlight this is not a blame on broky. The lineup didn't work, and I used all my experience, but with this, we throw a Hail Mary at the major." I think that's a key part of that right there. Obviously, the fact he's saying this is...
It reminds me of something, I have to say.
Yeah, what does it remind you of?
Falcons.
Well, yeah, but this team is better than Falcons, surely.
Zonic said exactly... It is, I'm pretty sure, word for word, he used all-in Hail Mary type of a thing when they did that for Shanghai.
We could go back and have a look. If someone in chat wants to go and see if they can find it, I can see the links when you paste them. But yeah, so Carrigan says it's a Hail Mary at the major. Long term, we have no idea what's going to happen yet. So there you go. That's in line with what we were just saying. His next part is in regard to broky. I want to express that I know the beast is inside of him, and I feel bad we couldn't get it out lately. We all failed in the team, and that's the sad part, but I know and I hope we get to see the beast in him again soon. Right? I think just to touch on some of the deficiencies with FaZe this year, and it isn't just this year, it was also last year as well, kind of masked by the good performances that they had at both majors by making the grand finals, but the team has been on a bit of a steady decline. And then this year, they just haven't gotten the act together since the addition of EliGE, and not because of EliGE, but because the team with the new complexion of players doesn't function the way that the old one used to. Then the announcement came out from the FaZe esports account saying s1mple is going to be playing with them at the major, and Carrigan quote tweets that unique opportunity, and I'm looking forward to play with this GOAT at the major. This is an all-in move. We're going for the trophy at the major. Even if Sasha is only a stand-in, I know we can win. Right now, obviously, Carrigan's not going to come out and say, "Oh, this is, you know, we're going to do what we can, guys. Like, we're just going to have fun."
They wouldn't look, if that was the case, they wouldn't have changed anything, right? They would have just like written out the season, right, and then just fuck it for the off season. But like, it is, and to some level at least, it is a genuine attempt at trying to do something, you know, rather than just like knowing that, like, keeping going with something that just doesn't seem to be working, no matter what they do.
Well, that's the thing, right? I didn't think they'd make a change, to be honest. I thought FaZe would stick with the same roster.
It came pretty much out of nowhere for me. I expected changes in the offseason, but not before.
Yeah, so the fact that they've gone for this does mean they still want to give this a crack. Now, I would imagine that they will likely drastically change the roster come the tournament break anyway with what's available. But this is just the best punt available. And then what we touched on before, like, what were the other options? Well, it was Dexter, and someone in chat said, well, why don't they just loan Dexter, right? I think if you're gonna do this, you may as well go for the craziest maneuver possible, which is s1mple, who is at the moment completely unproven, right? He's not in form. Maybe the other day he was doing a fucking cooking stream, right? Like with those two Ukrainian like bodybuilders. That's what like. Who knows what we're gonna get from s1mple? But this is kind of the fun part, because now I think Duncan made a good tweet, like the announcement of s1mple to FaZe that has like raised the anticipation for the major, which is true. Like, it's just thrown like a whole spanner in the works, because FaZe were essentially, in my mind, like a non-starter. They were a team who going into the major. I was like, well, you know, maybe they could get I don't think they could get player. Or maybe on their best day, they could have got top 8 on their best day if they were playing their best Counter-Strike with the 5 that they had. Yeah. We're going to get into what are the odds, which is touching on that topic, so I don't want to spend too much time on that right now. But what do you guys make of s1mple? What are realistic expectations of s1mple in this roster and his output? Because they only have fucking 28 days until the major, guys.
I think there's still enough. There's, like, compared to the Falcons move, right? Like, it is the same kind of type of a move, right? Same player, same kind of mentality. But obviously, FaZe have a lot more quality on the roster other than s1mple, you know. And it is not a move where you hope you get a GOAT in his prime, you know, and then he just like he gets you out of this rut because he's just the fucking best player in the world or whatever, you know. That was kind of the Falcons thinking, or at least the hope that he would be anywhere near that level. While for FaZe, I think he doesn't have to be a mega star, you know, for them to improve this team. Like, he can be just whatever broky did before, which is still high level, you know, but it's not crazy. It's not like just taking over all games all the time, you know. Like, it is a legitimate. I do see it as a legitimate potential for improvement, even if, you know, the last time we saw s1mple, it was kind of up and down. You know, there were flashes of the old s1mple, but it was like once every 5 rounds, you know, you saw something that like reminded you of him, but not across a whole map or a whole tournament, you know. So he keeps going back from like, now I'm grinding again. Like, we saw it from him the last couple of weeks, and now we can see why, you know. I guess because it was just after he got this offer or whatever, he started grinding FaZe and all that stuff. And it's not the greatest time. Like, he just has so little time to catch up on everything again, and just so like my realistic expectations aren't so high. But at least
the hunger has to be there, right?
Like, of course. I mean, at least I don't see it as like doomed as it was with Falcons, you know, where like the hope was just unrealistic.
I'm just looking at this right now. When did they play their last official? It was Blast Rivals phase. So do you think they made the decision before Rivals? Do you think they made it after Melbourne? I'll tell you something,
and I'll implore people to go watch the Kerrigan interview I did in the media day of the Blast. And, you know, as much as he says, like, this is not a blame on broky and stuff like that, like, the way that I didn't know about this move at the time, right? And the way that I read that interview already at the time was kind of like, what I'm doing seems good, like all of our plays are good, like the way that I'm leading the team, I'm doing everything I can using all my experience and all that stuff. But then I asked him about broky, and he's like, we're doing what we can to support him, but it has to come from him, you know, to build back up, you know, to get back up on his feet. And like, there were several kind of subtle hints like this that suggested like it was on individual players of the team to step up, you know, and like not necessarily a problem with the structure or anything like that Kerrigan can do anything about, you know. So it felt like the writing was on the wall already at that point, I would imagine. But the way that I know that like the decision came, it was very hushed. I can tell you that much. Like, I heard a possibility of this happening like less than 24 hours before they announced it officially. Like, that was the first time that I got an inclination that it might be happening, and I couldn't even confirm it, you know. That was like one place that I heard it from. That was it.
So I guess
I'm not 100% sure, honestly.
It's speculation, doesn't really matter, I guess. But do we think this decision was made after Melbourne or after Rivals? Rivals, their last match was on the 2nd. That was only 4 days ago, and the decision was made yesterday. Yeah. So
I mean, it could have also been
the announcement was yesterday.
It could have also been one of those situations, you know, where you just go out and see if that's a possibility. Even, you know, like you start exploring before you even make the 100% final call, right? Like, because like, yeah, if it's not s1mple, then maybe you just like, if s1mple doesn't happen, maybe you just play out the season with broky. Because the only other realistic option is Dexter, and it just seems like they didn't want to go that way for whatever reason, you know. So I think it might have been one of those situations where they were like, you know, bumping s1mple, like, yeah, would you be up for this? Seeing with Navi if it's possible financially, like with a loan and all that stuff. And then when they got all the confirmation, they were like, yeah, okay, let's do it, you know. And that might have come quite close to the announcement, you know. Like, again, the way I heard it, it seemed like not very many people knew until very, very close to the actual announcement.
Have the cards close to their chest. All right, here's a big one. Lots of people talking about this. Striker, you're the man who well, can help us with this, I suppose. Does s1mple get a sticker at the major?
No. He has to. So this is the same situation as with who was it last major? One of the Brazilians. That was one
Breno?
of I can't remember.
Lukowski replaced Breno at the time, didn't he?
Yeah, it was Lukowski. I don't think it was Breno.
Was it also Perfecto, right?
Somebody. Oh yeah, Perfecto was another one of those that didn't get one. Yeah, it would have been the same case with s1mple. Well, whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah, he's not, because he's going to be a sub. He's listed as a sub, and subs don't get the stickers because, you know, whoever's on the main roster gets the stickers, and then even if they never play a match at the major, they get the stickers. So he doesn't.
I have a question. Do you guys think s1mple has a Smurf on FaceIt?
Well, I think he should be banned if he has a Smurf on FaceIt, don't you, Prof? That's breaking the rules.
Yeah, but probably.
Well, I'm just like, because, you know, all this talk about grinding, s1mple in March was playing every day. That was most of the time with Yakindar. We know that there was like a, you know,
Perfecto, Yakinda, s1mple.
That was kind of like a thing. And then April 1st, April 2nd, then he didn't play until April 22nd on his account. So since like April 2nd, he has like 8 games on FaceIt, including the 2 today. So make of that what you want. I'm just talking about the grind and the dedication.
Yeah, well,
they're not going to draw any conclusions, but you know, this is just information for people to.
They won both
use.
games with Kerrigan and one of them with EliGE, and he was top fragging in one of them.
There we go.
The goat in the pudding
is back.
That kind of takes us to the next point, is s1mple reuniting with EliGE back in the Liquid days. So that's almost, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 9-ish.
That's fucking crazy, isn't it?
That is insane.
They're both 27. That's so crazy. The time that they played together, they were, what, 18 years of age. That's fucking mental. Like, that's a wild thing to think about. Does anyone think that'll cause any issues? There'll be any friction?
I don't think the fact that they played before is relevant today. But I think the fact that they are the people they are is relevant today. And obviously they changed. They're not the same. But I also don't think either of them is like 180 degrees, you know, turned around, is now, you know, either, you know, became Zen Buddhist yoga monks. They both still have, at the core of them, it's the same thing.
The feistiness.
s1mple is super competitive, wants to tell people how to play Counter-Strike because he believes he knows everything the best, because, you know, to be the best, you have to have that way of thinking. That's just how it is. And EliGE also kind of similar. Like, he likes to study the game. He likes to figure out stuff. He also has ways he believes Counter-Strike should be played. So I do think, you know, it's not going to be as bad as it was back then, because I think like that was probably unprofessional from both sides at time, at least like things that we heard. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but like there will be conflict for sure. Like that is, in my opinion, that's going to happen 100%. But please correct me if you think that's wrong.
I don't think that's wrong.
I mean, there'll be conflict, of course.
Yeah. There's going to be conflict on that, and then it's going to be up to the positive thing is that they have Neo as the coach, they have Kerrigan as the IGL, and they also have Rain there. And these 3 guys, I feel like, have enough, you know, aura essentially, to tell either of them to shut the fuck up, and, you know, tell them what out of the 2 options that might be clashing we are going for. So I think that's also going to help a lot. Plus, as I said, both of them also matured a lot and are not as extremely hard to work with as they were before.
I have one that I want to throw to you, Striker, that maybe you can help us with. A loan like this, so this isn't the first time this has happened. This is becoming more and more frequent, actually.
Yeah.
How, if you had to speculate, how does something like this work? Do you know?
Who pays what?
Like, as in how much, or?
Well, like, so Team A, in this case, it's an RV, is loaning player s1mple to Team B, which is FaZe, and he's going to be there for the better part of a month, right? So it's like so they just pay for a month of use. Like, what? How does this work?
Frankly, I don't know. I don't know the money behind it or whatever it is. I would imagine it's something like, you know, covering the salary plus something on top, you know, just because like he's sitting on the bench. Okay. He's sitting on the bench and you're like paying him for nothing, you know. So I would imagine it wouldn't be like a crazy buyout situation or like anywhere like a crazy money that Navi would be asking. And honestly, I don't even think FaZe have that kind of money, you know, if it was like kind of big money to ask for s1mple, just because it's s1mple, you know. So I think I would say it's probably not high.
Okay.
But it is pure
curious.
speculation. I really couldn't tell you like how much it could have been. Like it could be 50K, it could be 100K. I couldn't say.
100K for 30 days of use.
Salary wise, it's gonna be somewhere around the 50K mark. Like, and that's a month.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like Jason obviously made a tweet about s1mple and like doing these standing things not helping his case or whatever. But I think the problem is, what is s1mple meant to do, right? Jason was saying, oh, he should be like grinding and stuff. And I can understand that standpoint too. It doesn't feel like from the outside looking in that s1mple has the hunger to compete at Counter-Strike at the top level, which is also understandable because he's, you know, been the world #1 several times. He's won his major, he's won all the big events and whatnot. And he has, I would imagine, a decent amount of money and he's living his life. So I can get why that mindset isn't there anymore. Kind of wish that, you know, he could reignite. He definitely still has the competitive drive. It's the same with anybody that's a competitor at any point. It's like, you know, oh, do you miss playing? It's like, well, I don't miss the fucking practice. You know, I don't miss being in the server like 8 hours a day and doing this and always being on a plane. But you miss that fucking thrill of being in the server, winning a clutch, like that competitive fucking drive, winning a good round as a team, that's what you miss. And I guess that's the key of s1mple with FaZe, because he's going to respect every player on this team. Right? It's just, is his output going to be good enough for them to go toe-to-toe with the other world's best? Is it going to be good enough for them to go toe-to-toe with the middling of the pack teams? I would say so. I would hope so. But when we're talking about the best teams in the world right now, that's where I think that they are going to fall short.
I wasn't, don't want to say even impressed. I wasn't happy with his form in Falcons. Just like, you know, first few games were super rough. Then he kind of like, I would say, came to a level that was okay. You know, the first two, let's just like write it off. But I don't know. I think everyone just is looking at it through like rose-tinted eyes of like what s1mple used to be. But the reality is, even that last year in CSGO, he probably wouldn't have been like a top 3 player if he played it out until the end. He ended up being like 7th or 8th that year. So that is one. That's our last like snapshot of what s1mple was, and it wasn't, you know, number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2. That was definitely a drop off year, even in CS:GO, and obviously a lot of weird circumstances.
They moved away from being, you know, the Ukrainian Russian mix,
the world situation, all of the stuff with Ukraine and all of that. So, but it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, is like what you do in the server that is what matters. Then CS2 is hard on oppers in general. Across the board for all of them, there's very few that are still really good. So add on to that, hasn't been playing for a long time in a competitive team. And again, the thing that Moses said, like, it is true. Like, you're constantly being put into environments where you are expected to instantly perform with minimal practice. Once again, Rain maybe not even playing in Dallas, so they have a tournament that's kind of a throwaway. Like, it's good for him individually to get some experience playing lands and everything.
Not too old.
But yeah, that's not going to give you like a lot of confidence, or is it going to help you like play around with the team? Because the dynamic of having a Skulls and a Rain in a team is completely different. Like role wise, like how they play on the server, and also just as people, as, you know, teammates. So that's kind of a nothing gained from that. And then you're at the major. They're stage 3, right? So they're playing.
They're stage 2.
Their stage. Oh, okay, that's actually better.
Falcons got ahead of them, right? I think
that's actually better. So that's one thing that they can play against some of the lower ranked team and actually get into it. But yeah, it is a really tough challenge for s1mple, and I don't expect it to go too well. And it doesn't seem like FaZe are super convinced that it will either. Like I kind of agree with Striker. I feel like maybe they're just waiting around to see if Device would be free and then just pick him up, because he's he's everything that s1mple is not right now. Kind of a safe pair of hands. I guess the not safe part is you don't know if he's going to show up for every event, which is kind of fucked up. But in terms of what you get on the server, it might be a better fit for FaZe with, like, you know, an EliGE and Rain and Kerrigan that want to do a bit more aggressive and bit you know, go out, they do their thing, and Device to fill in the gaps in a way that broky wasn't able to and would never do, right? So it seems kind of like a temporary thing. And realistically, in my eyes, I was expecting s1mple, if he's going to join like a team, it would be like a let's play for Passion UA or a bait or something like that. Like I was legitimately thinking this might happen, you know, for a 3-month period or something, and just jump in a server and try to, you know, teach the kids who's the GOAT, you know.
Okay, I want to keep talking about this because we have some other stuff we have to do around this topic. But what I want to do right now is just quickly jump into the ad break and get things back underway. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to jump to some ads. We'll BRB.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
When every move counts, your chair shouldn't hold you back. Top esports players are switching to Anthros for unbeatable support and performance that keeps them in the game longer. Designed to support your unique shape and built with medical-grade components, Anthros is setting a new standard for comfort. Check out the Anthros difference today and get ready to fix your sit, because gaming deserves more than just a chair.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
Back from the break. The ads, they're done. So I hope you enjoyed them because we enjoy them. Striker, do your cats go into your bedroom?
Yeah.
Do they run on your head at night when you're sleeping?
No, not on my head usually.
That's nice of them not to run on your head.
Yeah, but they're still assholes a lot of the time.
Okay, but you love them anyway, right?
Of course.
See, my partner has cats, and when I go over to her place, which is very infrequently because their apartment's very small, I think that they just want to make me never want to go there. So they always run over my head. I only ever sleep there like 1 or 2 nights max. Like I don't, because I just can't be in that environment for longer than that. And they're just like why? Like I don't mind you guys. You're all right, you know. Like we can hang out. Everything's cool. Just let me fucking sleep, little guys.
Yeah,
but they don't like to let me sleep.
They sometimes fight at like 6 a.m.
They're nocturnal, right, cats?
Kind of. It's more like when the sun is rising and stuff, and like more like early morning and late night, you know, rather than like overnight most of the time for me at least.
Okay.
I was babysitting some cat for a week or two a few weeks ago. They're just assholes, right? Aren't they? It's just like 6 a.m. knocking on the door. It's like, okay, what do you want? Actually, nothing. Just wanted to wake you up for no reason. It's like, okay, how about don't do that next time?
I used to date a girl, and she had cats, and one of them, it was a white cat, I'm pretty sure. And I remember like looking at the sheet in her bed, and it was just completely fucking covered in cat hair. I was like, this is disgusting. I can't sleep. There's more cat hair than fucking bed. I was like, anyway.
The problem with cleanliness, not rather than, you know.
Yes.
But also the type of cat. I don't have like crazy shitting cats, so that helps.
Cat podcast. All right. Well,
from piss podcast to cat podcast.
Yeah,
HLTV Confirmed.
And they could be, you know, overlapping things. All right. Let's keep going on this FaZe conversation, shall we? So let's kind of narrow in a little bit. We're going to bring up one of our other segments, which is what are the odds? And this is what are the odds FaZe make top 8 in Austin? So someone says Sponge was just jealous of the hair. That's true.
No, he was just sad because like he understood he is also shedding just like this. And it was just like a reality that you couldn't live with.
Well, that was the girl that first said to me, she said to me, my hair was thinning. And I thought she was saying it just to be but I think she was saying it like because my hair was actually thinning. Yeah. Anyway, that's a fun story. So let's get into the meat. Well, this is the meat and potatoes, right? Right, we're almost finished our meal. Right,
Dimitri, by the way, we have a time.
A C word. C word.
Come on, man.
It's an alert.
I don't say them too often these days.
Okay, there you go.
So taking a look at this, right, we've got the majors around the corner, FaZe with s1mple added to the team with potentially no rain in Dallas. So their runway of officials is very light on. What percentage are we giving, gentlemen, to FaZe making top 8 at the major? Now, we'll give Striker a moment to do his calculations. Maybe he's already done them. But there's some other factors to keep in mind. Like, I can name 4 teams, so I already think we'll be in the top 8, right? So that's going to be Vitality, Falcons, MOUZ, and Spirit. So there's 4. So right now, there's only 4 spots left.
Honestly, like, there are so many teams that could be the other 4, though.
True.
And FaZe is one of them.
But I
FaZe
think
is higher, like relatively high on the list in my mind, to be honest, to be one of them. Because, like, okay, like you have, like let's say the next 4. I mean, on the ranking would even be like Aurora, Navi, Mongols. Let's say FaZe, maybe the next one. You know.
Liquid G2.
I'm forgetting, to be honest. Like, we haven't seen Aurora for like a month, and I've just forgotten they exist.
Yes.
So maybe that's my point. That's probably why I don't.
Yeah, only team to beat Vitality this year.
And they made all playoffs this year that they played as well.
Yeah.
True. Their problem is not making playoffs; it's doing well in playoffs.
Yeah,
it's the same as the Mongols.
Yeah, same thing.
So I would put Mongols and Aurora in at 5 and 6. So now I have 2 spots left, right? And that's my hope, right? My hope is that those teams make it.
And
to
then,
the playoffs.
like, Navi has generally the level to be there, right? Even if, like, recently it hasn't really looked like that. Like, when's the last time Navi missed playoffs? Well, actually, Shanghai was 9th to 11th.
Yes. So here's the thing, right? So create this next group. And this next group, grouping some of these teams together sounds gross, but I'm going to do it anyway. FaZe, 3D Max, Navi, Liquid. Oh, shit.
You're gonna say Virtus Pro.
I was going to say Complexity. Fucking hell, who have I become? Like,
that's a bit random for like one showing, you know.
Yeah, wasn't it 2 showings?
I think it's gotta be another group already.
Was it 2 showings for Col or just 1? Was it just Bucharest?
It was just the Bucharest one.
Jesus, they're riding that high, aren't they? Yeah. So, but anyway, the odds, like I'm talking the 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to consider like they start the stage earlier.
20%.
You literally said 1 out of 5. That's 20%, bro.
Yeah, that's true. I normally don't do the mathematics, but I wanted to make it seem a bit more outrageous. But talk us through your logic.
I mean, it's kind of what you said. I think there's 4 teams we really expect to be in there. There's like 2 teams we kind of expect to be in there. That's like Aurora and Mongols. And then there's 2 spots left. And then for those 2 spots, there is about 10 teams that could get in there. Not 10 teams. Let's say there's like 6 teams that should produce the 2, and then there are 6 teams that could produce 1 or 2.
Sure.
And
I see what you're saying.
That's kind of, without like doing like exact math, 20% felt okay to me.
Here's the thing. For me, I feel like they can lose best of 1s to anybody. But when it's best of 3s, let's say it's a 2-2 game and it's against some younger
Gamer
players.
Legion,
Gamer Legion aren't there. They're not there, right?
Sorry.
You're all right. But let's say it's against Pain or something.
Yeah.
FaZe will eke that out. FaZe, I can't see FaZe in that situation shitting the bed. So by that logic, I feel like I have to go a little bit higher in what percentage I would give them. Like you've gone 20. I'm going to go 40. I'm going to go 40%.
Which 63?
Yeah, lots of FaZe fans, bro. Everyone's a fucking FaZe fan.
That's true. That's true.
We had, like, side notes. Yesterday was our second biggest day of the year so far, and the biggest was the award show, which was really not that far off, to be honest. It was so close. So yeah. Aura,
that doesn't surprise, but it's s1mple and FaZe. That's
yeah, exactly. The combination of Aura and like cultural impact is unreal. Plus broky also is kind of hated, you know, so people love to hate. And so like all of it combined, just created one massive bomb.
That's true. Yeah, okay.
Like I struggle because of them starting the first stage as well. That's just like an additional hurdle compared to a lot of these teams. All these teams that are ahead of them, like the group.
They're starting the second stage.
That's
you said
okay. Okay, I meant second stage. Yeah, like that alone makes me feel like they're probably more in like below the top 8 in terms of like teams who have the biggest chance to make it to the playoffs, because they have that additional stage to go through first. That, where I could see them go out too. Like there's a world,
I mean, they can lose to Falcons for sure. They can lose. I mean, Pain has been shit, but they also just started practicing with DGT. I feel like the roster should be better, so they could lose to them.
And then like 3D Max VP.
Yeah,
like there's a combination.
And then some of these teams, especially that come from the best of the stage 1, complexity, fucking, Bait.
There's really not many good teams in stage 1.
But if it's a best of 1,
yeah, true.
Kyu, whatever, wildcards not horrible
streak lately as well.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I'm like, my first instinct when you ask the question was 30%, and I'll just stick with that. I don't know.
Damn, you've gone lower than me.
He's also going first instinct. Let's give it up for
30.
3-0.
Damn, okay.
No, I'm like a hater or something. I just thought I was being real. I literally took what Chad said, took the higher percentage out of the 2, and mine is the lowest. Okay, fair, I guess. I
just think that the pedigree of the players in crunch situations, they're going to deal with the nerves better. That's why I've given them a bit of a buff, right? If I wasn't factoring that in, I think I would be somewhere between the two of you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What are the odds? Now, for people who are unfamiliar with this little segment on the show, essentially what happens is you, the people at home, over X and Instagram, will get the opportunity to vote on what you believe the outcome will be. Either yes, they will make top 8, or no. And you can see these odds provided on screen right now. Essentially, the viewers, if you end up being correct, you will win the predicted or potential odds. As you can see, 132 euros or 81 euros. That will go into a pool of cash money. And then at the end of the season, we'll do a giveaway of some variety where we'll give things back to you. So there you go. There you have it. That's all that. Done. Great. Everyone happy? Great. Awesome. Let's get into Blast Rivals, shall we? Now, this one, we're going to handball directly over to... Well, let's go from, sponsor bit to sponsor bit. So each week on the show, we do a segment called Fix Your Sit. Or shit, if you want to look at the H in the bracket. Some people say it's silent, some don't. And this week, we're giving this one to Striker, which I actually have ranted about this twice in 3 days. So, Striker, I want to hear your take on it, because it's going to be much more thought out than mine. The Blast Rivals format.
Right. It's not as much the format as much as the teams that were invited and how that ended up transpiring for Blast. Partly it's not their fault, just the wrong teams happening at the wrong time, like Liquid not being able to accept that invite, Mongols saying no to the other one. But the way that it was set up, they kind of set themselves up to fail, where last year when we had these 8-team Blast events, it was always like the cream of the crop. Like you went straight into the great games, like the top 8 teams effectively at the time were kind of facing off against each other, especially in last year, where the groups turned out really well. Like none of the big, like no OG made it through the groups and stuff like that just like made some of these lopsided games. But this was supposed to be like that kind of an idea, where it was like the 8 best teams in the world at the beginning, right? Then they ended up changing it to these wildcard invites from 4 different regions, supposedly because they had to. And it just turned out in a tournament where more than 50% of the games were shit. Like really, and bad effectively because the level of teams between the top 4 and the bottom 4, let's say top 5 if you want to include FaZe, even though they obviously didn't do that well, and then playing Flyco's wildcard, a Pain that barely had any practice and all that stuff, like all of it together just made for a really bad viewing experience for most of the tournament. Really, some of it again was not their fault because the semis were also shit, and that was the top 4 teams playing against each other, and you're like, finally we're gonna get the good games, and then we have 2 more blowouts, kind of. So that didn't help the situation.
We had a lot of blowouts in Melbourne as well.
Yeah. But still, I mean, at least we of course, it turned out pretty well in Rivals for the final as well, right? But still, there were some good games during Melbourne. And also, I didn't see like half of Melbourne, so maybe I just missed a lot of the shit games, so that also helped.
Fair enough.
This I just watched from the beginning to end, and like, yeah, too many lopsided games that just were between teams that had no business playing against each other in a 8-team tournament that's supposed to be Blast's like biggest probably tournament, the one that they want all the top teams to attend, and all that stuff. So yeah, fixer should Blast.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to throw in just a combination of obviously it was supposed to be in Mexico, and it didn't turn out to be in Mexico
too. Yeah,
meant to be a crowd. Like from what I heard, like the partners didn't really deliver what was supposed to happen. So maybe better that obviously it's better to have a decent studio event than go to an arena and have everything be fucked up, right? That is fine, but it really takes away from the prestige of the event as well. Combined with the team situation, combined with the prize pool situation, it just all together. I just think they need to like rethink their Rivals concept through and through. And I think it's also just disappointing to have another studio event. There's just so many studio events now, and it's like everything's in a studio. It's like at least it hasn't been back-to-back studio events though. No. Yeah, Melbourne kind of broke that up. But yeah, I mean, Blast will finish this year now potentially with just 3 arenas, right? Should be the
London
second
for Open,
and then the other rival.
And then the other rival, whatever it is, it's not going to be an arena. Like, it's also going to be some small, very small.
Wasn't it meant to be somewhere in Asia?
Eastern Asia, whatever.
I don't know what kind of like setup is supposed to be, but
Rivals was always supposed to be like a small venue, like let's say up to 1,000 or whatever, like not
2,000 something, yeah, like unique venues and stuff like that. But I just. I feel like it's very counterproductive to what they're trying to do. Like, rather just make a 16-team tournament if you can't get the 8 best, or do something different, because I don't think it's, as you said, it's not really hitting what is supposed to be, the World Finals vibe of previous years.
But this is like Striker, your kind of take on it is not about the format itself, just more about some of the shortcomings of the teams. But
honestly, the format itself, like, I will just say something. I like, as much as I don't like it, and I never liked it from Blast, like with the skipping, it is kind of the same as if you had the groups. Like, it is just terminology from my perspective, because it's effectively the same as if you had the second match in the lower bracket, except it's like cross group, So effectively, the quarterfinals for me is like that match. Like the playoff deciding match in the group stage, Match, yeah. So I don't really see the same way as IEM, where there's real skipping, that like you go way ahead of the tournament, while everybody else has to play for their spot, and it's way more top heavy. So like in Blast's case, they're calling it playoffs when I wouldn't, because like the quarterfinal is basically a group game, if you think about it. So like for me, it is just semantics.
Sure, but like, so this is your issues seem to be different than mine. Like, my issue with the format is the fact it's 8 teams in the first place. Like,
okay.
You shouldn't even be able to run it.
Last, like before, if it was what it's supposed to be, right?
But
like
it's a wild card event, right?
Team. Yeah.
So just on the premise of what Valve introduced, they were given an exception to be able to run this, an exception, whatever. Because you're meant to run 3 tier 1 events before you can run one that isn't 16 teams or without whatever the fucking thing is, right? But they didn't do that. But and then they got this exemption. It's like, but I don't understand why they were given the exemption. Maybe because Valve wanted to collect data on what an 8-team event would look like and what type of implications it would have on the VRS and et cetera, et cetera. But don't we want to have more teams at these events? Isn't that why? Like,
yeah, of course.
So then the format in itself in the VRS era of Counter-Strike is like a bad format in my mind.
mean, it's more like it's not what Valve want, right? Then Valve want more teams because of the data and all that stuff. But then again, like, if you just look at it from like a fan perspective, don't you just want to go straight into good games? Like, sometimes for some of these tournaments, I mean, that's what I like.
Yeah, but
about
it's
Blast
meant to have an implication on the VRS, right?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. But like, again, just from a fan perspective, like as it's standalone tournament, let's ignore all the other context. Like just as viewing experience, I liked the fact that like at Blast you had first game like FaZe against G2 or some shit. Like if just like some banger game that happened from the beginning. You didn't have like a lot of these filler games that ended up being like super lopsided and didn't really give you anything, because like a lot of the time it wouldn't just produce any upsets that would be exciting. and all that stuff, you know. So from that perspective, like format, I don't really care about. Yeah, I also hated the fact that they got the exception because that was what we wanted to avoid in the first place, right? Like we didn't want TOs to just give spots to teams. And like, but the way that the Blast ended up dealing with it was they just gave the spots to the best ranked teams in the region instead of just choosing what teams they want there, which kind of made me feel better about the whole thing, because they didn't just throw the invites to Liquid, I don't know, maybe Nave is a bad. I mean, they would have given it to Liquid. They did give to Liquid at first. They just couldn't go because they lost the Asian core.
Yeah, but then they could have taken it on the NA slot.
Yeah, then they could have been the NA one, but that by that point, Wildcard had already accepted, you know, so they couldn't give it to Liquid after the fact.
Wildcard slots, wildcard event, whatever. For fuck's sake.
But yeah, like that kind of made me feel okay about it, that they didn't like abuse the system just to get the right teams at their tournament, you know, that like, which was again what we exactly wanted to avoid with the Valve rules in the first place, you know. So I don't really care too much at this point. It's just a shit tournament right now, though.
That's the thing. I just want to say, like, this is realistically, like, where would you even put this on the ranking of tournaments this year? I'd say like towards the bottom of probably top 10. Like, you obviously put 2 majors, then you put like Katowice, Cologne, then you put actual arena events like, I mean, all the IEMs, like Astana, like Melbourne, like Dallas. Like, even if the team list is not, maybe doesn't have like the top teams, I would put like a Cluj in front of this, just because it provides more value. And obviously, maybe from the MVP perspective, you're not playing all the top teams, but like the top teams play like fucking 3 games and they win the tournament, and some of them are against kind of shit opposition because the bottom part is very low, and again, no arena.
It's down with like an EPL, but at least EPL gives like more opportunity to smaller teams, but it's still
and you have like more sample in terms of like, if someone that has a really good EPL, they had to play a lot of games to have a really good EPL, right? And here you kind of really you could fluke this tournament. Obviously, Vitality won it and they're winning everything, so you can't really say that they did, but it just feels like such a low value tournament for an organizer in a circuit that should have just like fucking really important tournaments. And this is supposed to be because Bounty is supposed to be kind of a throwaway, which it is realistically.
It's meant to be more of a fun format. Yeah. They didn't even get that from
but now they have like 2 bounties that are kind of like whatever. They have this tournament that's kind of whatever. The opens are fine. I have no problems with that.
Just run another open.
Yeah, so that's kind of my problem with it. It just feels like it's a waste of Blast and in general calendar space.
Okay, I've just worked it out, right? Blast don't ever do any secondary stream stuff.
Yep.
Blast only ever, other than majors, do mainstream. So that's why they couldn't do a 16-team event in 1 week, because they don't run secondary streams.
Well, I mean, there's a solution to that.
Yeah, but running a secondary stream is not as easy as it seems.
I know.
Okay, let's keep the ball rolling.
They did, by the way, run a secondary stream for this. I don't know if you were watching or not.
What was that about?
Oh, the co-stream.
Honestly, I was also kind of confused about it.
I didn't watch it at all. You run
co-stream. You have co-streams because that's community stuff, right? I mean, that's like, because it's personality and all that stuff.
Official co-stream.
But having an official co-stream was kind of against the whatever principle. But honestly, listening to it and like watching some of it was kind of funny. I did enjoy it as like a co-stream thing. So
I have no idea how it worked. I was in Mongolia. Time zones were not
actually Counter-Strike in the clubs.
Weren't that bad, but I was probably on the desk for like 14 hours a day, so I didn't really have time to watch your tournament. And
there was stuff like, you know, getting away with a fart on a plane, which is, you know, like on a EPL level conversations occasionally.
That's true.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I actually kind of enjoyed some of the co-streaming. I didn't listen to a lot of it, but some of the combinations they had were pretty good. I liked it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into the actual conversation about Blast. The headline is Vitality. They won the Grand Slam in Melbourne. We didn't do an episode since Melbourne. Then they go into this event with the Liquid streak as their next thing to break, which they did. They now have the 2nd longest series win streak of all time, behind NIP. So Vitality have attended 6 tournaments this year. They've won 5. They've won 5 consecutive. Zaru has been an MVP at every single one of them. They're the best team in the world right now, without a doubt. So I did a lot of Vitality glazing on Talking Counter yesterday, so I want to leave the glazing for you guys. Like, there's only so much glaze to go around. So who wants to go first with their Vitality glazing? Or does anyone have any negative they want to say about Vitality?
I'll go first because I have less. I enjoyed the win. Watching the final. Just the fucking factor of the unbeatable factor that they have going. It's so cool to watch and witness. It's been a long time since we had that. I know Navi had it for a bit, but not obviously to the same degree. And before that, it's been kind of forever, I guess, FaZe when they are really good. And I haven't seen it such a long time, and it's just, yeah. It's beautiful to watch.
Why do you think that is though, Prof? Because I have the same kind of feeling, and I was saying that during the Astralis period, when I was working on desks as an analyst, or I was playing at the time that NIP was so dominant, I was playing at the time when Fnatic were winning, all those majors. This one, for some reason, maybe it's because now the power of hindsight, understanding all the great teams that have come before, seeing it in modern Counter-Strike, knowing that there's been that big break between. The fact that this is so many consecutive events, there's something about this that I don't want to say it feels more special, but I feel like I'm paying more attention.
I think it also does feel more special because it's been such a long time since we had a really consistently dominant team that it felt like it was never going to happen again in some ways. And the fact that it's happening proves that, yeah, you can just be good. And CS2 is not just random because we're playing MR13 and there's MR12, what I was saying. And Peaker's advantage is strong and whatever, and people can just swing and anyone can beat anyone. The fact that a team has been built that is just so consistently good just proves that the game is, it's a real competitive sport, It's not just people running around shooting heads. And the fact, I think I can also appreciate it, at least personally, a bit more as well, just because they built this team with like no buyouts practically. They just built this whole Vitality as a whole has almost not purchased anyone for a significant sum. So it is just proper good GMing from the moment they got into CS until today. Like, your first signing is ZywOo. Okay. Yeah. They're like, we can get ZywOo, let's make a team. And then from that point onwards, obviously not every signing was perfect. They had issues, MBK couldn't work with this guy, kicked this guy, Alex left, burnout. It's not like they were perfect, but they just built this in such a fashion that is just so great to see. And, people can say what they want, but I can't enjoy Falcons the same way. Even though they can play good Counter-Strike, I have like at least a bit of me that is it just doesn't feel good. And it's just that maybe it's coming also from like football and everything that happened there. It's just like buying success so directly and so quickly just makes me feel kind of like, yeah, maybe they should just lose. It's good. It's fine.
I mean, you seem to be forgetting the era with Misura and Kyojin. Like, they were still kind of winning, but it was mainly because of ZywOo,
yeah,
the
that's
GMing
true.
hasn't always been that great, to be honest.
That's true. I guess that's when they realized, the French, they're trying their best with the French.
Right.
Honestly, when you think about it, Misuta and Kyojin were the best upcoming French players. And they also helped, develop them. One guy was signed as a streamer or whatever. Like, they tried their best, but they hit the wall there.
Yeah. What do you feel about this, Striker? Right? Do you have any strong feelings about Vitality, or are you living in the moment? You're like, yeah, this team's just really good.
They are really good. I've been talking about this before, where I feel that it is coming at a kind of a weak point for the scene, where so many teams
he's
are
one
struggling.
of these weak scene Andes. All right, here we go.
But that's what I was going to go back on, because any streak you go back to, you can always pinpoint a bunch of teams that are struggling at that point that are just about to change. The same thing happened around the Liquid period, where they took over when Astralis were in their kind of weird little small blip in that 2018 to 2019 era, and other teams were just not really at the same level as some of the top teams and all that stuff. So any era you go back to, everybody's now just completely disregarding the NIP era as if it's not the most fucking incredible thing you've ever witnessed in any sport for a team to be able to have that level of dominance, no matter what. And
it's not because most people didn't witness it because they didn't see it, right?
That's maybe that's a problem. That's problematic. But then you have like 40-year-old Ostriker who also has that opinion, who was there for like way before that, So I just see these opinions that I just can't really get over the fact that they still have some real competition in MOUZ, for example, who got close on a couple of occasions, and their streak could have ended like 10 series ago or whatever it was. They had a couple of close games against Spirit, same way, and I don't think Spirit, like, people are constantly shitting on Spirit now, but I don't really think they're bad. It's just, they're just missing whatever Vitality has. I don't know. And then you have now Falcons, 2 series in a row where they nearly one of those times they should have beaten them, and then somehow they just pull off a miracle run. Like, it is, that's what I said, like, back, when was it, like beginning of like before Melbourne or whatever. Like, watching that team really does feel like watching Astralis, because of the way that they win, like, of the like sheer stupidity of the way that like all of their players can just do something at the right time and just turn the point of a game. They will be at a force by like 12-6 down on the fucking nuke.
Oh my god, there was some crazy
in Melbourne
rounds, bro.
And just pull off a 3v5 retake on nuke, like, where like it is over, like everybody knows it's over, but it's not. And
what was that,
like,
MESA fucking
so
2v5 or something?
Yeah.
On Mirage, where like he's in jungle and he gets like the lineup for the second and third kill or whatever. I'm just like, these guys can literally do no wrong. Like, everybody always pulling something out of their ass in Vitality.
You can still, like, of course you can still point to Falcons and then be like, yeah, but Nico really wasn't there. And it's kind of both series now. Like, that's something that I'm just kind of like looking at now. It's like, if Nico did play as he should, in these games, it would have ended both times. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, well, he would have one of those games, and somehow he never did. Like, no, across neither of these best of fives, he had a massive game where he just carried the team on his back, And like, people will say it's like choking Nico and all that stuff. Like, he's still done it in these occasions. He just hasn't on these two. For some reason, Vitality is this block for him. That he needs to get over. But it's still so fucking impressive to me, like the way that they keep winning. To be honest.
I think there's something that needs to be said with that, though, right? Like, obviously, Nico hasn't had the best performances in those finals. I think the fact that Falcons were in back-to-back finals, well, it's back-to-back-to-back, essentially, let's put the Bucharest one to one side, because my point here is about m0NESY joining, having a day and a half worth of practice, and then still making finals in like the level that it elevated them quickly. They're not playing their best Counter-Strike straight away, and they shouldn't be, because that would be fucking crazy if they were. Obviously, Nico being in a mission from delivering, especially on key maps like Nuke, where he can have like influence to win the game, not single-handedly, but he can, have a lot of influence over rounds if he plays a little bit better. But there's still like room for development and growth with Falcons. So from that side of things, I understand what you're saying in the sense of, like, Vitality could have lost these games, but they have that magic about them that feels like they can come back in everything, which is one of the exciting elements of the team. There was like a few things, right? So they've won Katowice, then they went to a studio event, like they took a break, they went to a studio event, they would go, it's EPL. Then from EPL, they go straight to Lisbon. So then that starts in a studio, finishes in arena, win the arena event. Then they have a break. Then they go to, what was it? Melbourne. Then they go to Melbourne. So they have a break. So they're getting downtime. Then they go to Melbourne. They win Melbourne. Then they have straight into a studio event, and then they win that, right? Which is like the flow. So they've had these nice breaks between. And I've seen a couple of comments, because I've said a similar thing a few times. And people, and I've praised like how they've managed their time off between events. And people are like, yeah, but that's just because they're partnered with ESL and they're skipping PGL events. It's like, I'm still praising the fact that they're skipping certain tournaments. Just now it's worked out that it's PGL ones, right? And I want to reiterate this, because we spoke about this shitloads last year. Like, the three of us were saying from the midpoint of last year that we expected the top orgs to skip PGL events. We said that last year, like all throughout that, because that's what we said. We said that we didn't think it was going to be as competitive, and we thought they was going to skip those events. Then the way that the structures were put in place, the way that some of these people have been brainwashed to think about structures, which are legal with what the Valve have put out there. Valve have put out these rules. Whatever these TOs want to do with their structures to incentivize teams to come to their events is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It even goes down to the minutiae of what tables do you have? What chairs do you have? What flights do you offer? Do you get single rooms? These aren't things we talk about, right? But they're still on the same level of, is there an incentive program? Is there a rev share? Is there club share? Those things all exist, right? Now, at the start of the year, the big orgs, like we spoke about, decided to skip the PGL events. They're not doing that anymore, right? But for Vitality, it's worked out the ones that they have skipped, well, they may as well keep skipping them because it works in the flow for things that are important to them. Grand Slam, right? And then obviously they're going to, I guess they're going to try and go for the frequent flyer points with Blast, right? They must have so many fucking tokens at this point, right? Like that. So they won 2 events. So they must have like fucking 7 or 8 tokens. They could have most tokens for the year. That's
a lot.
End up with like 400,000.
Yeah,
that could be a shitload of money, right? So like all of this framing
also,
of
like,
that,
it's the guaranteed fees. Like they just got like whatever 80K for free for just turning up the rivals, you know. So like,
yeah. So like, look, right now it's turned out that it has been the PGL events that the best team has skipped. But when we have the best teams in the future who are skipping events, it's not always just going to be PGL events. It'll be an ESL event here. It'll be a Blast event there. It'll be a Starlighter event here.
Do you think we'll continue the same way in the second part? I'm just looking at the calendar. Like they might skip like a Chengdu and then go to Belgrade instead. Like,
well, unless they want to go for 2 Grand Slams in the year.
Yeah, that's a theory, I guess. If going for 2 Grand Slams in a year.
Imagine if they could win 2 Grand Slams within a year, right? They'd have to win, obviously, Dallas. Then they'd have to win Cologne. Then they'd have to win EPL. And then they'd have to win Chengdu, right? But that would be fucking insane. Like, that's what my next goal would be. Because you need some form of motivation if you're Vitality for Dallas.
Well, I mean, the major is first, of course.
Well, no, Dallas is first. Dallas is the one that keeps open the ability for the Grand Slam in the year.
So, yeah, of course. But that's kind of like a pipe dream, right? At this point, like the same, it's as much of a pipe dream as like catching up to the NIP like record, you know, let's say as much as that, because like winning 4 more tournaments on top of the 5 that they already have, plus the major, you know, which is obviously their big goal. Like that's 10 tournaments in a year. That's like, that doesn't happen just that easily, you know? So it's like, they're probably like thinking, yeah, maybe what if, but I don't think they're going into Dallas like putting the most pressure on themselves because we want that in Grand Slam
priority for sure.
Like this year, you know, like of course, like in an ideal world, you'd be like, yeah, that would be fucking amazing. But I don't think that's like realistically how they're thinking about it, you know.
No, that's fair.
I mean, the skip of Belgrade might make sense again because Chengdu finishes.
Belgrade would be a sick event, bro. I'd love to go do that event.
Chengdu finishes, and then after that, it's Rivals, which from what we know, might be close in that area, right? I was thinking skipping Chengdu would make sense because you don't want to travel to China, just from that kind of point of view.
But then there's Rivals.
They must play Rivals for the rev share stuff.
No, they don't have to. You don't have to play 4 in a row. At that point, they would have played 4 in a row. Would that be eligible?
Is it 4 in a row?
But you still skip on the 80K for free and all that. So like it's
you have to play 4 in a row to be eligible to skip 1. So then they could skip Open in London, or they could skip Rivals in.
Which they're not going to skip a arena event in London. That's not going to happen.
Not with MESA on the team.
Not with MESA,
yeah.
No, that doesn't make any sense. So,
nobody would do that, right? Like Navi.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And CAC is before, but that's not a part of anything. It's just sorry for derailing a bit.
No, you're right. I wanted to ask a question for the two of you because I had it just up a second ago. I must have. Here it is. So, Striker, you made a tweet when the streak was broken. And your tweet said, I see the whole best of 1, best of 3 streak discussion opposite to most people, it seems. Since when is it easier to win best of 1s consistently?
Right.
So can you, first of all, give me a bit of context of your tweet, right? Because I'm sure I read the same tweets and heard the same conversations you did. I'm just interested at the perspective you were coming at that with.
No, I was just like looking at how people were comparing the Liquid streak and like, you know, I think it was MySnake who was like, you know, this is a much better streak already in my eyes because it's all series, you know, and there's no best of 1s. And like the same kind of conversation is happening with an IP streak. And of course, there's like different contexts there that people bring up because of the competition and all that stuff. But generally, I felt like a lot of people were leaning towards like, just because it has no best of 1s, it is somehow more impressive. When to me, the more best of 1s you have in that streak. And of course, there has to be some kind of a combination, right? Because it's like all best of 1s, like that's, first of all, that's never going to happen. But it's also like, there's always going to be some best of 3s you know, where you have to prove like that you're also better across series and all that stuff. It cannot just be you're great at 5 of the 7 maps, and you know, you just ban 2, and because you can always ban 2 or ban 3, and you just play 4 maps and you're just going to dominate all the best of ones because you just put your focus on whatever. But I just felt like there was a big kind of misconception about best of ones just because they're like one game, as if we haven't had the conversation where we talk about how random best of ones feel and how difficult it is for favorites to keep winning best of ones, to not, you know, fall into the trap of just like one game goes wrong. Like, it's especially in MR12 it's so much easier, but even in MR15 it was happening quite a bit that the best of ones just went the wrong way. We have a lot of data on that. I think Harry even released an article.
Doesn't that kind of, what you just said, that even though it's not directly contributing to like the best of 1 versus best of 3 conversation, the fact that it's MR15 versus MR12 is like, that
also makes
the whole
honestly, that even that makes it more impressive, because it's just by virtue of there being a smaller sample size, it is harder to win a series in MR12 consistently as the better team. Like, I don't know what the data is at the moment. I'm sure Harry did write something at some point about this as well, about like how much more likely it is to win as the better team or higher ranked team in MR12 versus MR15. We had the same data for best of 1 versus best of 3, and the difference was pretty big, like in terms of how often the higher ranked team won a best of 1 versus a series. Just was more random, or was much harder to do. But just by virtue of there being fewer rounds, it is much more likely for you to just run into something bad in the game at the exactly wrong time, and that just spirals the game out of control, you know? So like, it is much harder to win all these games in this format, even in series. But of course, on top of that, best of ones. But Vitality haven't had to play any, you know, so it's kind of, it helps
until the major, right?
But that's my point. Like, it helps them that they haven't played them, because we've seen them lose even somewhat badly in over singular maps. Just never in a series, obviously. But they got very close on many occasions, you know, where they did lose one map. They got close to another. One round goes differently. They would have lost maybe 5 series so far this year. If one round in each of those series went differently, they probably would have lost. Yeah, you know, so like, that's how close they got to losing the streak. And so I'm like, but if there were even best of ones, that's even harder to stay alive for that long, you know, for that period of time, you know. So I just didn't like that people were just disregarding best of ones as if they are easy to win, or like as if winning 20 of them in a row is not the most fucking impressive thing in the world, because it is so fucking hard. It is so random, and it does take so little for you to lose it, you know.
I find all of these comparisons so difficult anyway, because it's like different metas of Counter-Strike. It is MR12, it's MR15, it's CS2, it's CSGO, it's this fucking map pool. There's so many different things that come into these conversations, right? And I think that something that, you know, it's hard because you don't know where you were at when you were watching these things at the time, and you know, you're looking back on things. Like, to measure and say, you know, which is the greatest of all time, well, sheer volume is where you'd start. But then the NIP one gets watered down because people come in and they start saying, I was just against fucking plumbers and truck drivers, which I was a plumber. And I'm sure I did lose to NIP as part of that streak.
I'm sure you did, yeah.
So, you know, like,
I like by the way, I just like what Prof said earlier about like how this streak kind of gives legitimacy to CS2 as a game, where a lot of us maybe thought that it was just much more difficult than it used to be for any sort of a dominant run to happen, exactly because the move to MR12 or breaking the smokes, making the game more random, or like certain rounds will just go like crazy because of that one single mechanic that changed, or, you know, it is more individualistic because of the peakers have advantage. Like, a lot of these narratives, as much as I'm sure there is some truth to them, you know, and all that stuff, and like data wise, as I said, like MR12 100% must be more random. It must be. It just must be. And so to see that it is possible for a team to be this convincing, this dominance over a fairly long period of time, I think that just shows that CS is still in a great place, that it can still be mastered in a way that it doesn't, like, nobody else can, you know, like nobody else has done what Vitality has done in CS2 so far.
And there's a lot of anticipation going into the major with them as the top dog. But let's shuffle forward here. Who is look, to be fair, I didn't have you pegged, Prof, as a Falcons hater, but apparently you are. So what do you have to say about them soaring at 35,000 feet because that's as high as Falcons can go. I googled it.
Okay, but is that high enough? That's a question.
Well, right now, no, but in a couple of weeks, maybe.
It's tricky without, because like I like everyone on the team, like as
you just
individual.
hate the team.
But like when the way it's put together is like, okay, I guess I don't know. No, I mean, yeah, you can't hate the players. Like Nico is amazing, Monacy is amazing. I like Tessus, always like Tessus, great guy. Kiksan from my region, like literally played tournaments I played at probably or coached like 5-7 years ago. So I have nothing against them. Like it's nice when they win. It's just like, you know, when they win, then you go on Twitter and then you see like a Lars Robble tweet about trusting the process, and you're like, damn it.
I did an hour and a half long interview with Lars Robble in Copenhagen, by the way. So that's going to be something.
He's never going to release it. He just did it to ask questions and annoy the guy. But what do I think? I mean, it's actually insane that they're already this good. I mean, that just means they will inevitably be winning tournaments this year. It's just inevitable, right? It's just, and I mean, it's not like we didn't expect that. We did the what are the odds? We all said like they're most likely going to be in top 4 at the major already, and they're this good with this little practice. It's amazing. Like the whole Nico thing is interesting, and it's interesting that like this Nico Monacy team like combination still can somehow magically disappear when they shouldn't. Like
you've got that angle.
It's what is it not true?
That is though. I mean,
no,
it's
not true. You
true.
can say what you want about rivals, but maybe they shouldn't have won. I mean, the last map wasn't that close, but Melbourne, they had it. They had it. Also Tessus. He also has like many second place finishes and like disappointing moments in his career. Like it is a couple of players that have like historically faced this problem. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad players in any way, but they are players with a history of underperforming and having insane losses overall. So it will be interesting to see how that develops. I don't think it's a given that that's just going to be, you know, magically fixed. I'm not saying, but they'll win tournaments, but maybe not the tournaments this year.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying there. Look, again, I'm the type of guy who's still doing it a bit old school. I'm happy to give the team more than a day and a half worth of practice and then still making it to back-to-back grand finals, only losing to the best team in the world who's undefeated in fucking 25 straight series. So, look, I'll give that to them. I'll give that to Falcons, right? I think that the more time that they get to practice under their belt, obviously, the better they're going to be, and their runway going into the major couldn't be more perfect. They get a break right now where they get to practice, then they go to Dallas, then they're in stage 2, so they get to go home again after Dallas for a week and a half to practice and then come back ready and raring. They get to get their sea legs about them in stage 2 and then take that into stage 3 against the top dogs, or to which the teams that are better than in that area is just one at the moment of Vitality, and then there's teams who are in the same hemisphere as MOUZ and Spirit. And then after that, you've got fucking G2, Mongols and Aurora, who will be good in group stage games. We still haven't seen them perform well on stage games. Na'Vi and Liquid, who are unknown quantities. So, like, Falcons performed, and I would imagine, like, if we're being realistic, have exceeded expectations for not the, but how quickly I can see. I don't know what to do, man.
You're the second. I thought that's super hard.
Packet loss.
Give it a second. Anyway, Striker, jump in with your Falcons until it's probably going to be fixed in a minute or two.
I mean, I said it before. I am a bit disappointed that we haven't really seen the full power of the Nico Monacy combination, because Monacy Nico's had a few games like this now, and then like Monacy just will have some of these games sometimes. Like he had those games even in G2 where, like, of course, like his absolute peak was amazing, but then he had games where he was just like over peaking, losing them rounds that he shouldn't be in, and like things like that. But it is still, I understand that it's still a work in progress, but it's kind of cool to see that, you know, in this tournament, for example, like when it wasn't Tessa's who was stepping up. Magisk suddenly had a few games where he was the one making a difference, you know, and that's also taking a while for him to kind of adjust to this lineup. And it felt like for the first time at this tournament that he's finding his place on the team and like he's finding that old form again. Seemed consistent to me. I don't think he had a single game like he used to. And yeah, if I'm looking through it, it's not like he was blowing people away most of the time, but he had that like Spirit series where he had a couple of good games and like made the difference in the overtime and all that, you know. So it's kind of cool how this team, even though it's supposed to be like this wanna see Nico superstar, like the old G2 way, you know, like where those two were just carrying their asses like to trophies and like far in tournaments, where this is kind of getting challenged, like in Melbourne by Tessas, of course. Like he had several really big games, you know, that like without which they wouldn't be as competitive as they were. Now Magisk, you know, finding some of that form. Kixen had a bunch of, like not a bunch, like he still had the same lows as he had highs, you know, but he just had a couple of games where he just took over, you know, and that's not what I expected from this Falcons. I really did think it was just going to be like the Nico and m0NESY show, and they're just going to run everything, and that's how they're going to live or die. But the depth, it just feels like there might be more to this than the G2, the previous version of G2 that still had those two players, you know.
I think there's so much more room for improvement with this roster.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't mean the roster needs to be improved upon. I mean like the 5 players have only been together for a short period of time. All right, let's move on. Let's jump into MOUZ, and we've got a couple of other things to hit tonight before we're going to wind things up. What's your guys' take on MOUZ at the moment? Right, they're only losing to Vitality and now Falcons. So, are you guys concerned? Where do you place them? Do you think that they can have a last ditch splash at the major? Do you think maybe the narratives at the start of the year where it was like, oh well, you know, Brolin can do well early when the structure from Shui and Cyclone that was still existing is there, and like where do you guys place them? Are there any strong thoughts? And if not, that's all good.
They're still taking Vitality to close results. I don't think there's anything to scoff at there, to be honest. Like they keep surprising me. I felt like that was just going to be a one-time thing where like, okay, they had one good game, you know, where they took them close and almost beat them. But it's like, what is it now? Like 4 series in a row that they've lost, but had a realistic chance in all of them to beat Vitality. Vitality, who we see as like super stacked team, you know, like it's that alone is impressive. Even like, of course, Falcons have now kind of like overtaken them for like the title of the second best team in the world, probably because of the last 2 tournaments and because of the head-to-head between them now. And especially, I mean, kind of with the way that they beat them the last 2 occasions, that's a bit worrying, I would say. But the fact that they're still competitive against Vitality, I mean, that alone just shows you that the team is functional. I mean, that it is working.
Okay, so no concerns. Prof, do you have any?
Yeah, I didn't really watch them in now and Rivals. I don't really have anything new. I think the defeat to Falcons on stage in Melbourne was kind of a warning, especially because it was such a blowout. But no, I think in my mind they're just like a kind of a placeholder-ish top team. I don't know, that doesn't really make any sense, but like I don't really expect them to win a title over the 2 right now, but I just expect them to be like consistently very good and like put up a fight and push people, but don't really expect them. Again, it's the classic MOUZ situation where they're really good, but can't really do the thing. Yeah. That's how I see it. But I don't know. I haven't drawn any, like, don't have any new conclusions from Rivals.
I mean, they've been in the situation where like they were leading on Vitality in key moments, you know, and they just lost the plot at the end. Like it was the same thing happened in Rivals when Train, I think they were up 8-7. And ended up just like losing like 7 rounds in a row on the decider, you know, and like the same thing happened in the previous game that they played. That was in Melbourne, I think. I can't remember now. That they played against them, where they were like 10-8 on Mirage or something, and then they lost, you know, like on the decider again. Like they've probably gotten the closest apart from that one Melbourne game, you know, to breaking the Vitality streak, you know. So that's like there's got to be something there, like that it has to break through at some point if they're getting closer and closer, or at least close every time they play.
Yeah, I guess the concerning sign is the losses to Falcons, right? Like I don't think I think that's the problem there, because it's also a team who kind of have a bit of Joker baggage, right? Like they're just in recent times, maybe the last 6, maybe 8 months, overcoming the can't do it on stages, right? And Exertion definitely has been able to shrug that off this year. But until we see them do it against the best in the world, you're just another bridesmaid, which, there's plenty of those going around in the world. Okay, next one, Spirit. Same situation, essentially. They're in the top 4 teams in the world. But is there more concern about Spirit than there is for MOUZ? Is there, because there's a bit of a conversation right now that Spirit are suffering from success in the sense that by winning the major, they didn't make a roster change. And by not making a roster change, they are in this position where they're good, but they're not great.
I think this is pretty much correct. And I think that the thing is they just have such a good player waiting in the wings that it will force everyone to talk about they should make a roster change because they have, I don't know even if it's a solution, but they have an option ready, right? And the fact that they are pretty far away from being the #1 team, and they have a player that could be, the #1 player of the year, theoretically, he was last year. It just
is it even going to be possible to knock ZywOo off that now?
I mean, people have said this, but in theory, obviously it can be because we haven't even played half the year.
Yeah, but wouldn't someone have to do the same thing ZywOo's just done?
Exactly, but he just did it. So in theory, anyone could do this. There's even more
unlikely, but fair.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, Donk is keeping up with him. He's not getting the MVPs because they're just not in title contention, right? So numbers wise, there is a guy who is on par. It's just he's obviously not winning the finals, not getting to the finals even lightly.
Who you replacing, Prof?
I don't know, because there is a bit of a clash, obviously. The clash is obviously with Donk, but then also with the other rotation roles being, Chopper playing some of them. If you're talking just CT side, for example, Chopper plays a lot of them actually, and then some of them are played by Zontix. I think you just have to kind of fucking close your eyes and pick between the two of Zontix and Magix and just make it work after that. Just give all the other rotation roles to fucking kyousuke and ask Donk to step up in comms and help call the CT sides, and that's it. I think it just makes sense.
Well, they're obviously not going to make a change before the major, right? Their major win in Shanghai buys you until the next major. So they're a conversation that has to. The thing is, there's still in any given Sunday, Donk going nuclear, Shira having some big impact, Zontix hitting plenty of body shots, and Magic's getting 69 kills away from winning a major, right? It can still happen. They're not out of the conversation. They're very much in the conversation. It's just that as one of the top dogs of the year, they haven't had any success since Bounty. Right. So it's been very dry in that regard. And then they skipped Melbourne as well, which they were upset about, but they had to skip it for whatever reason. So they skipped it. It was health reasons that were cited, right? So, All right. Cool. Should we get into the Astana conversation?
I guess briefly, yeah.
All right. We can do it.
Quick one. Final chat for this evening. Going to be about PGL Astana. This one I think is going to be exciting. I just was flicking through Reddit before and I saw a little video go up from one of those fucking trash Twitter accounts. I hope those guys are making 6 pennies a day, right? I hope they're really killing it out there on Twitter with all this stuff. Anyway, someone posted something. It was Donk arriving in Astana and all the fans coming up wanting to take photos. And I think it'll be a really cool event for the locals. Likely to be, I would imagine, Russian casting in the arena, which would be cool too. And I think that there's obviously a massive fan base in that part of the world that could be serviced here. So I think it's great that PGL are heading there. It's a big boy event in terms of the prize money. If people aren't familiar, PGL with all of their events are 1.25 million. So that's fantastic in terms of the prize pool. In terms of the names in attendance, I'll read them out from ranking. We have Spirit, Na'Vi, Aurora, the Mongols, G2, Game EliGE, Virtus Pro, Astralis, Pain, MIBR, M80, FURIA, Big, NIP, ODIC, and HOTU. And I think that there's 4 or 5 of these names that aren't actually qualified for the major. So you obviously have Game EliGE and Astralis, Big, NIP, and then the last 2, ODIC as well as HOTU. Hope I'm saying that right. Apologies to everybody if I'm getting it wrong. But yeah, Spirit of the headline act. And for me, the first storyline that pops off there is, are they able to win in a weak field? Right? Because there's obviously concerns about them not having strong performances when the other best teams in the world are there, but those other best teams aren't here. You have stage chokers in the likes of Aurora or the Mongols. And maybe I'll take that back a step. I'll say inexperienced stage teams in Aurora and the Mongols who are still trying to find their stage legs. You have Na'Vi who are in crisis. So for me, this is Spirit's event to lose. Is that a fair surmise?
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
In my opinion, yeah. There's no way around it. Like, they should be winning this every day of the week.
It's has to be either them or Na'Vi, but given the form of Na'Vi at the moment, I mean, Spirit has to be edging in that conversation. I mean, Na'Vi are the only team out of all these teams that has beaten Spirit this year, and that's at the beginning of the year in Katowice, in the group stage game, and then they ended up losing to them anyway. A couple of days later, right? And like 3 other times this year, I feel like. So it is Spirit's to lose, really.
I think there's also okay, let me ask this question, Prof. What is your, other than the Spirit conversation, is there a favorite storyline or favorite team, or is there something that you want to see manifest or not manifest you're keeping an eye on during Astana?
Okay, I'll definitely say NIP. Like, I haven't watched them at all. Curious to see how they do on LAN against like top opposition and everything. I think it's definitely their chance to finally, if they get like get the playoffs here or something, which I think is completely reasonable, they could be back in the contentions for invites for actual real tournaments.
Yes,
and I think that would be nice to see. So that's the first one off the top of my head, and then maybe Pain with some practice. Not too much practice, but I think this lineup should be pretty good. Like, they should be pretty good.
I think it would be nice to see a good Pain result for the lead into the major as well. Because I think Pain are also in Dallas, so we'll get to see them again. No, they're not in Dallas. Okay, never mind. I take that back. We won't see them again until the major. All right, Striker, what are you keeping your eyes on outside of what was just brought up?
Yeah, I mean, that was my big one for sure.
Really?
Because like I was the one who brought up NIP. I mean, at the beginning of the year as like my team that would be on the rise for this year. Obviously, they just didn't get to a spot where they could prove themselves outside of online, and they were like, at some point I thought that was just, at some point I started to hate watching. I was like, Jesus Christ, why? They were losing so much time with the Jax thing, and so I'm just glad that they're getting some opportunities to actually play on LAN. So that's okay. One of my biggest storylines. For me, like, a lot of the other teams are kind of in, like, I'm expecting there's going to be some flux. So it's just,
it's Astralis and FURIA on debut with their rosters.
Yeah, of course. FURIA is just the awkward one that I'm just like curious how it's going to work, but like maybe not super excited about it until I see what's going to be happening there. Astralis, I know, could stop existing in a month's time. So I'm like, yeah, sure. It's nice to see Uxie back, and maybe if this does turn into something, it could be leading to some sort of a future. If they have another good result at a PGL event. But knowing the context around the team, just not super excited. Same thing with G2. We now know that Hades is not like it was always going to be a temporary move, unless somehow he just like destroyed everybody, on the way in, and just became a player that we never knew him to be. So that was probably not going to happen. So for me, it's mostly seeing our Aurora back, as I said earlier. Like, we haven't seen them for a month. I just forgot they existed, and so like they were always exciting for me to watch. And then seeing if like who out of Spirit the Na'Vi is just going to step up and take it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got a couple more. Like, I think there's the Super Bowl angle, thanks to Mr. Tommy Lurpus, that you have for Gamer Legion, you have for Big, you have for NIP, you have for Astralis. For them, this is their Super Bowl. I think for Gamer Legion, it'd be nice for them to be able to...
Oh.
Am I lagging again?
No, you cut out for some reason. You're good. You're back.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know why I'm lagging. I did message my girlfriend, said if she's downloading, can she please stop? But she didn't reply. So I assume she's ignoring me. Anyway, there's a few things to be excited about with this one. I also want to see the turnout in the arena. I even forgot G2. I just don't care about G2. Holy shit, I couldn't care less about G2. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought you were gonna say. VP. I thought you were gonna say hate watching VP. I feel like we could all kind of agree on that one. They have been absolutely horrible.
No, this is the coach that does it. This is the one.
This fixes everything.
This is the one that fixes everything. Get on board. Look, I want to. This is what I want to do for what are the odds on next episode.
Yeah. How many more coaches will VP change this year?
No. This one is to do with FURIA. It's to do with Fallen. What are the odds?
Russian-speaking players will add to the line?
What are the odds Fallen retires this tournament break?
Oh, well, this tournament break.
No.
Ooh. Okay, we could do that. We could do that.
That's the next. What are the odds? The next episode.
I just want to say, like for VP, I think this is as close as it gets to a home event currently.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah. I mean, they're not going to make a change if they fuck up here because the major is so close. But like, yeah, I foresee consequences if they don't make playoffs here. And it could as well happen. Like I have no faith in this.
I'm slightly worried what's going to happen if Navi plays Spirit in the arena. To be honest, that might turn into something nasty.
Oh yeah.
But well, I mean, even then, like they will be, as long as they're not against one of the other two teams, basically. This is also kind of a home tournament for Navi.
Yeah. Mo is coaching HOTU. You know that?
Yes, that's true. There's a couple of names in that team that I recognize. Like Kadio, I remember him. He used to play like on very high ping. I forget who he was playing with, but I remember watching him. Same as like Duke Fishura. I remember him as well.
Vanguard, like the
Kadio guy.
Yeah,
he was.
He was.
Yeah, for a short period of time there. So some of the names I know. But yeah, this is like a tournament that is nice for the region. It's essentially like a king of the hill. That's how I'd frame it for Spirit, right? They just have to beat down everybody who comes to try and take their throne. There's a couple of really important matches for teams who are not in the major. A strong performance here and some wins against higher rated VRS teams for them will do really good for them going into the next season too for invite purposes. So that's another really key point. Any victories from the lower teams, it might seem like, oh, it doesn't matter. They're not at the major, but it matters for next season. And that's where they could be in contention for the major. So I think there are things to look out for, and it keeps things exciting in that sense too. So yeah, it starts in 4 days. Starts on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Monday. It can't go Sunday, Monday.
Monday.
Yeah. Starts on Saturday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's the groups, right? And then there's a fifth Wednesday. Day, right? Yes. And then a day off. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For people watching in the arena. Yep, but that's the PGL way. I love it. We get all the games in. If you're there and you want to watch it, you're there and you want to watch it. If you're not, you're not. That's cool.
You're casting online from home.
Yes.
What's the last time you did that?
Never. Oh, no, that's not true. G8. Me and Henry did G8 from home one time. I think that was out of the pan. No, it was after the pandy. But yeah, I have to set my living room up to facilitate some form of a casting environment for me and Alex. Alex just lives down the road, so he's going to come over and we can just do it from the couch in my living room. So hopefully that's fun. We'll see what happens.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. All right, ran a little bit over tonight, so sorry to everybody. Sorry to Lucas who traveled home to be able to throw this on for us this evening. We'll work out a day for the next episode. By the sound of things, it would make sense to do Thursday next week after the group stage of Astana has come to a close.
There's no off day, or is there an off day now?
There'll be an off day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be an option.
Yeah, so it could be Thursday next week. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been another episode of. I forgot to do this. I left it on Spirit status update when it should have been on 3 things to be excited about. But we gave you more than 3 things. Anyway, shout out to our sponsors, Anthros and SkinPle for sponsoring the show. Thank you for all the viewers for tuning in and hopefully enjoying the podcast for this evening. This has been another episode of HLTV Confirmed. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then. Good night.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
When every move counts, your chair shouldn't hold you back. Top esports players are switching to Anthros for unbeatable support and performance that keeps them in the game longer. Designed to support your unique shape and built with medical-grade components, Anthros is setting a new standard for comfort. Check out the Anthros difference today and get ready to fix your sit, because gaming deserves more than just a chair.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.